Chapter 358. Qingyan Peak, Qingju Pavilion. Actually, Gongsun Yiming still harbored some selfish thoughts about Yu Haoran personally guiding his sister's cultivation. He hoped that through Yu Haoran's personal guidance, the two of them would be able to spend more time alone together and increase their mutual affection for each other. Their relationship would then rise to a higher level. It wasn't that Gongsun Yiming had extravagant hopes of obtaining anything from Yu Haoran. Instead, it was because after knowing Yu Haoran for a period of time, he realized that Yu Haoran was a person who placed great importance on relationships. Just because of the friendship formed during the training in the mystic realm and his willingness to join Qingyan Peak, he didn't fear the sect leader of the 100 Qi Gate, Zhao Ji, whose cultivation had reached the martial emperor realm, and dared to fight with his life on the line. If his sister could become Yu Haoran's life partner, at least in the future, she wouldn't be bullied and he wouldn't have to worry about her safety. Now, the only thing that Gongsun Yiming was a little worried about was Lin Mengyao and Kang Yong-ah, who had been by Yu Haoran's side when the training in the Blue Moon Mystic Realm was coming to an end. After all, those two girls also possessed peerless beauty that could cause the downfall of a city. They were peerless geniuses with outstanding talent and potential. However, Gongsun Yiming sees that his sister is not less beautiful than Zhou Mengyao, and she is even a little more beautiful than Zhou Mengyao. Besides, Gongsun Yiming just showed her great talent. As for Gongsun Yuding, when she heard that her most beloved Yu Haoran, Yu Shixiang, was willing to personally guide her in her cultivation, her thoughts were like a running deer, causing her little heart to beat rapidly. Yuding, in a moment, second senior brother will take you to choose a courtyard that you like. After everything is arranged properly, go directly to the Hidden Moon Pavilion to see me. Since he had decided to guide Gongsun Yuding in her future cultivation, Yu Haoran had to make some preparations in advance according to her immortal bone physique and monstrous aptitude. Yes, Yu Shixiang. Gongsun Yuding replied obediently. Senior brothers, junior brother Yiming, I'll take my leave first. After saying goodbye to everyone present, Yu Haoran turned around and left the Qingju Pavilion. However, when he passed by Wu Jingjun, he said softly, Zhengjun, follow me to the Hidden Moon Pavilion. After reuniting with Qingju Pavilion, Wu Jingjun noticed that Yu Haoran was paying more attention to his eldest senior brother and Gongsun Yiming. He only nodded at Wu Zhengjun to greet him. This made Wu Zhengjun feel a sense of loss for not being valued. This sense of loss made him feel a little overwhelmed. Originally, he had wanted to wait until the gathering was over before going to meet Yu Haoran alone and tell him about the results of his cultivation and realm breakthrough. This way, he could prove that he was still his senior brother's best assistant. Now that he had heard Yu Haoran take the initiative to invite him, how could he not be happy? Therefore, in his excitement, Wu Jingjun forgot to say goodbye to everyone present. He hurriedly followed behind Yu Haoran and left the Qingju Pavilion. In the cultivation room of the Hidden Moon Pavilion, cultivation and the grade of your physical body, Yu Haoran asked directly as he gestured for Wu Jingjun to sit cross-legged in front of him. My cultivation is at the advanced stage of 3rd grade martial master. My physical body is at the peak of 3rd grade martial master. I have already finished consolidating them. Wu Zhengjun replied truthfully. That's about what I expected. Hearing Wu Jingjun talk about the results of his breakthrough in the martial master realm, Yu Haoran only nodded and did not reveal the slightest bit of surprise. The experience in the Blue Moon secret realm had caused Wu Zhengjun's cultivation and physical body to reach the limit. Furthermore, with the help of the feces of the exotic beasts and the cold Yin Qi of the Yin Spring, the Yuan power in his Dantian had been completely purified. In addition, the more the bloodthirsty special physique was activated, the more it could greatly increase his talent and potential. Therefore, Wu Zhengjun being able to break through 3 small realms in his cultivation was not out of his expectations. The only thing that surprised Yu Haoran was the breakthrough in his physical body's grade. This was because, according to his estimation, based on his own accumulation, Wu Zhengjun's physical body would at most be at the peak of 2nd grade martial master. However, he did not expect that the breakthrough in his physical body would be an entire small realm higher than his estimation. Zhang Jun, during the breakthrough process, were there any doubts or strange areas? Yu Haoran asked. There really was. Nodding his head, Wu Zhengjun closed his eyes and directly mobilized his cultivation and physical body. When he broke through to the martial master realm, something had suddenly appeared in his body. Blood shield. Seeing the bright red circular shield that appeared in front of Wu Zhengjun, Yu Haoran shouted in surprise. Following that, he asked excitedly, Zhengjun, did you completely activate the bloodthirsty physique? I think so. Rubbing his head, Wu Zhengjun said with some uncertainty. It's not I think so, I'm completely sure. Shaking his head with a smile, Yu Haoran explained. Among the thousands of special physiques, the bloodthirsty physique is the one that is best at attacking. However, how to ensure one's own safety while attacking? And this blood shield is a defensive secret technique condensed from your own blood essence when the bloodthirsty physique is completely activated. Its purpose is to solve the weakness of your body's defense when attacking. At this point, Yu Haoran placed his hand on the blood shield and carefully felt the power within it. He was very satisfied. Based on my judgment just now, the blood shield's defense is on par with a low-grade zone realm magic weapon. Zhengjun, in the future, as your cultivation continues to improve, the bloodthirsty physique will continue to evolve. Sooner or later, the blood shield in your body will advance to the King Realm, Emperor Realm, Saint Realm, Exalt Realm, and even an Emperor Realm magic weapon with its own consciousness. It's true. Hearing Yu Haoran's evaluation of the blood shield, Wu Zhengjun asked in disbelief. It's even more true than spirit stones. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran replied with a smile. At the same time, he finally understood why Wu Zhengjun's physical body could directly advance to the peak of third-grade martial master. It was probably closely related to the fact that he had completely activated the bloodthirsty physique. Yu Haoran, since Zhengjun has completely activated the bloodthirsty physique, it's best to bring him along when we go deeper into the mountain range. Using the secret devouring technique to devour the flesh and blood of exotic beasts can not only increase his strength, but also further consolidate the bloodthirsty physique. This will lay the most solid foundation for him to advance to the bloodthirsty physique in the future. Just as Yu Haoran was lamenting the various changes the bloodthirsty physique had brought to Wu Zhengjun, Fouling in his sea of consciousness suddenly suggested. I think so too. Yu Haoran agreed. Then, he continued to ask with concern. Zhengjun, other than the blood shield formed after completely activating the bloodthirsty physique, do you have any other doubts? Shaking his head, Wu Zhengjun indicated that he had no doubts for the time being. Closing his eyes, Yu Haoran thought carefully for a while, then opened his eyes and said, Zhengjun, go back first. Come to the Hidden Moon Pavilion in the morning the day after tomorrow and accompany me to the depths of the mountain range. Then, use the exotic beasts in the depths of the mountain range to train. Firstly, consolidate our cultivation after breaking through and familiarize ourselves with the power after breaking through. Secondly, use the secret devouring technique to continue increasing our cultivation and strength, further increasing the power of your bloodthirsty physique. Yes, Yu Shixiao. Nodding his head heavily, Wu Zhengjun stood up and left the cultivation room. After Wu Zhengjun left the cultivation room, Yu Haoran asked in confusion. Pagoda spirit, according to my understanding, martial artists with special constitutions, after fully activating their special constitutions, will have their own constitutions and martial skills. Why didn't Zhengjun obtain the martial skills after fully activating his bloodthirsty constitution? Chapter 359. Clear Cloud Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. Fouling, you can't be saying that the blood shield just now is a physique martial technique after the bloodthirsty physique has been fully activated, right? Hearing Fouling's rhetorical tone, Yu Haoran immediately guessed the blood shield that Wu Zhengjun had just displayed. But through the touch just now, he discovered that the blood shield only had a relatively strong defensive ability. It should be considered a secret technique of a special physique, and not a physique martial technique that could multiply one's strength. Yu Haoran, the blood shield that Wu Jingjun displayed just now, is not only a defensive secret technique, but also a physique martial technique that defies the natural order. Thowling said in a serious tone as he recalled the physique martial technique that the blood demon old man had once displayed. The blood shield can be real or fake, big or small. It can be used for defense when it is real, and it can be turned into a sea of blood when it is fake. Thowling, what did you mean just now? It can be used for defense when it is real, and it can be turned into a sea of blood when it is fake. These two mysterious sentences cause Yu Haoran to be completely confused. Yu Haoran, the blood demon supremacy of ancient times, was able to shake the world and cause his enemies to subconsciously run for their lives when they heard the two words blood demon. In addition to his devouring technique, he also had a unique physique martial technique after the bloodthirsty physique, and the bloodthirsty physique have been fully activated. And the name of this physique martial technique is called the Blood Demon Technique. The Blood Demon Technique has a total of 7 moves. The first move is remote devouring, which means that there is no need for any physical contact to directly extract the opponent's blood. The last move is Boundless Sea of Blood, which means that the entire person can turn into a sea of blood and directly put the opponent into the sea of blood. Then, with the power of the sea of blood, it can devour and refine the opponent alive. Whether it is the first move, remote devouring, or the last move, blood devouring the world, the link used is the blood shield. Therefore, the blood shield is not only a defensive secret technique, but also a physique martial technique that can multiply one's strength. I see. Thowling's detailed explanation allowed Yu Haoran to finally understand the specific effects of the blood shield. At the same time, he felt happy for Wu Jingjun from the bottom of his heart. According to what Thowling had just said, Wu Jingjun, who had the blood shield, only needed to continue increasing the power of his bloodthirsty physique. In the future, he would be able to obtain the best defensive equipment and the strongest physique martial arts. Of course, with Wu Jingjun's current reliance on him, the stronger Wu Jingjun was, the more help he would be to him. Since Wu Jingjun had no problems for the time being, Yu Haoran began to consider how to guide Gongsun Yuding in her cultivation. Although he already had a preliminary plan in his heart, he was more interested in listening to the experienced Thowling of the immortal bone physique that he was very familiar with. She wanted to see if he had any better ideas for Gongsun Yuding's cultivation. Yu Haoran, actually, the guidance for Gongsun Yuding's cultivation is very simple. Thowling said in a relaxed tone when he heard Yu Haoran's inquiry on how to guide Gongsun Yuding in her upcoming cultivation. The immortal bone physique absorbs the spirit chi of heaven and earth hundreds of times faster than ordinary warriors. Their comprehension of realms is also thousands of times faster than ordinary warriors. Therefore, you can help her complete her first cultivation. In the future, you only need to provide a large amount of spirit stones and elixirs, and you can let her cultivate on her own. After hearing Thowling's suggestion, Yu Haoran asked in disbelief, "So simple." Originally, according to his thoughts, since Gongsun Yuding had the immortal bone physique, which was ranked 7th among the tens of thousands of unique physiques, then he absolutely could not waste this opportunity. Therefore, he planned to use more rigorous training than Wu Jingjun to ask of her. Now, after hearing Thowling's guidance, how could he not be surprised and puzzled? That's right. Thowling continued, ignoring Yu Haoran's fuss. In my previous life, ever since the peerless powerhouse I once followed created the 9 Heavens mystic heart technique, he never asked about his partner's cultivation. He only took her out to train when he had nothing to do, to improve her state of mind and expand her life experience. It was under such a state of complete abandonment that his partner successfully comprehended the law of control in less than 10 years and advanced to the martial sage realm. In the end, she became a powerhouse in the martial god realm in 100 years. At this point, Thowling revealed a conspiratorial smile and advised, "Therefore, if you want Gongsun Yuding's cultivation to improve quickly, It's best to take her out to train when you provide a large amount of spirit stones and elixirs to assist her in her cultivation. This can improve her state of mind and experience. I understand. Although Yu Haoran maintained a doubtful attitude towards Thaling's suggestion, he considered that he was unfamiliar with the immortal bone physique. Therefore, he decided to follow Thaling's suggestion and let Gongsun Yuding cultivate for a period of time. If her cultivation progress was as fast as Thaling said, then he would follow Thaling's suggestion in the future and adopt a laissez-faire attitude towards Gongsun Yuding. Since he had already determined Gongsun Yuding's future cultivation plan, Yu Haoran got up and left the cultivation room. Then, he went straight to the Hall of Merit. This was because in the Blue Moon Secret Realm, he had promised Gongsun Yiming that he would give Gongsun Yuding a foundation establishment pill at the beginning of her cultivation. This would allow Gongsun Yuding to enter the martial disciple realm in the most perfect state. Now, even if he didn't have that promise, he still had to refine the foundation establishment pill in advance. His goal was to not waste Gongsun Yuding's monstrous talent and the special physique of the immortal bone. Since Clear Cloud Peak did not have the Earth's core fire, he could only borrow the alchemy room that was rented out by the Hall of Merit. Fortunately, the foundation establishment pill that he was preparing to refine this time did not require too many medicinal ingredients. The refining process would not take too long. Therefore, after leaving the Hidden Moon Pavilion, he did not inform Gongsun Yuding. Instead, he left Clear Cloud Peak and went straight to the Hall of Merit. To a disciple of the Hall of Merit, it was fine if you didn't know who the sect leader of the 100 Chi Gate was, and it was fine if you didn't know who the new Hall Master of the Hall of Merit was. However, you could not know who Yu Haoran was. If you didn't know who Yu Haoran was and unintentionally offended him, then not only would you suffer, you might also implicate the Hall of Merit behind you. Therefore, when Yu Haoran entered the Hall of Merit and expressed that he was prepared to rent an alchemy room that could be used to refine pills, not only did the person in charge of the Hall of Merit not charge any rental fee, he even took out the best alchemy room in the Hall of Merit. Furthermore, a martial ancestor realm deacon personally led Yu Haoran there. Yu Haoran's reaction to the Hall of Merit special treatment was very calm. He did not reveal the slightest bit of surprise and could only silently follow behind the deacon who led the way to the alchemy room on the east side of the Hall of Merit. However, just as he was about to reach the alchemy room that was used to refine pills, he unexpectedly heard the sound of an argument. From the sound of the argument, Yu Haoran sensed that one of the parties in the argument was someone he was familiar with. "Deacon Xia, please wait a moment." Chapter 360. Achievement Hall. In front of the alchemy room. "Senior Jin, why is it that every time I see you, you are always arguing with the disciples of the Achievement Hall?" There was no need for Yu Haoran to squeeze through the crowd. The Achievement Hall's attendant Xia, who was in charge of leading the way, used his martial ancestor realm aura to forcefully disperse the crowd. This allowed Yu Haoran to reach the center of the crowd without any obstructions. Yu Haoran teased a youth in front of him. He wore a green gown and held a sharp sword in his hand. "So it's Junior Yu." Hearing someone teasing him, the gloomy sword without trace immediately turned his head to look. He discovered that the person who teased him was actually Yu Haoran, who had taken the initiative to help him out 2 months ago. His gloomy expression eased a lot. "Senior Brother Jian, what happened?" Thinking about how Sword Without Trace's left hand was tightly gripping the hilt of his sword, as if he was ready to attack at any time, Yu Haoran knew that he must have suffered a great humiliation. Otherwise, with his excited state alone, he would not have dared to be at daggers drawn in front of the Achievement Hall's alchemy room. "Junior Yu, please be the judge." Thinking about how Yu Haoran had helped him last time and how careful and cautious he had been, Sword Without Trace's heart was suddenly filled with hope. He hurriedly recounted his experiences and the unfair treatment he had received. It turned out that Jian Wuan had used the corpse of the 7th rank, 3rd rank Wolf King to exchange for cultivation resources. His cultivation had smoothly broken through to the 7th rank Martial Master. Furthermore, he had reached the peak of the 7th rank Martial Master in a very short period of time. In the following 2 months, he left the 100 Chi Gate and went to a dangerous place called the Broken Cliff to train. Although he was able to raise his cultivation to the peak of the 9th grade martial master in a short time through the Broken Cliff, he was unexpectedly poisoned by a very special poison when he was preparing to break through to the martial ancestor realm. This special poison was called the three-tailed scorpion grass. It was a type of poisonous grass that looked like a poisonous scorpion but had 3 thin branches from its root. Not only was the three-tailed scorpion grass very small, but it also liked to live in the weeds. While it was extremely difficult to be discovered, it was also very easy to accidentally injure others. The poison contained in the three-tailed scorpion heart grass was not fatal, but it specialized in corroding the essence energy in a martial artist dantian, as well as the demonic energy within a mutated beast body. Of course, the three-tailed scorpion heart grass's speed of corroding essence energy is not fast. You only need to recuperate for around half a year and wait for the three-tailed scorpion heart grass's poison to be automatically consumed before everything will return to normal. However, for the sword without trace, the cruel reality forced him to seize every minute and every second to improve his cultivation and strength. It was impossible for him to rest quietly for half a year. Furthermore, after experiencing the trials of the Duanya perilous land, his cultivation had already reached the limit of breaking through to the martial ancestor realm. He was even more unwilling to wait any longer. Therefore, relying on his valiant strength, after killing many powerful mutated beasts and collecting many precious spiritual herbs, he exchanged them for a top-notch detoxification pill from the Achievement Hall. He planned to use the detoxification pill to neutralize the poison of the three-tailed scorpion heartgrass. However, not only did the detoxification pill fail to neutralize the poison of the three-tailed scorpion heartgrass, the medicinal effect of the detoxification pill further increased the poison of the three-tailed scorpion heartgrass, causing the essence energy in his dantian to be corroded even faster. At this moment, he was already unable to maintain his cultivation at the peak of a 9th grade martial master. This was also the main reason why he had a conflict with the Achievement Hall. What is the name of the detoxification pill that was exchanged for Senior Jian? After listening to the sword without Trace's explanation, Yu Haoran turned his head and asked the Achievement Hall disciple who was in charge of the pill room. Replying to Yu Shixiang, it is an 8th grade, 9th grade detoxification pill. The Achievement Hall disciple who was in charge of the pill room replied respectfully, Senior Jian, it seems that you have misunderstood the Achievement Hall. After hearing that the detoxification pill that the sword without trace had exchanged for was actually the detoxification pill, Yu Haoran smiled and explained on behalf of the Achievement Hall. Junior Yu, what do you mean by this? Seeing that Yu Haoran was actually siding with the Achievement Hall, the sword without trace, who was originally gentle, questioned him with a gloomy expression. Senior Jian, please don't misunderstand. Waving his hand, Yu Haoran indicated that he was not siding with the Achievement Hall. Then, he explained in detail. Although the detoxification pill can neutralize most poisons, there are only 5 types of poison. Not only does it have no detoxification effect, it will instead increase the power of these 5 types of poison. And the three-tailed scorpion heartgrass that Senior Jian was poisoned with is one of these 5 types of poison. If that's the case, why didn't you tell me this when I exchanged the detoxification pill? After hearing Yu Haoran's detailed explanation, the sword without trace's anger was directed at the Achievement Hall disciple who had exchanged the detoxification pill with him. I didn't know at all. In the face of the sword without trace's angry questioning, the Achievement Hall disciple had a long face and repeatedly said that he did not know. Senior Jian, there's no need to hold him responsible. Seeing that his left hand was gradually tightening its grip on the sword hilt, Yu Haoran knew that the sword without trace had mistakenly thought that the Achievement Hall disciple was trying to harm him and was about to teach him a lesson. He hurriedly stood in front of the Achievement Hall disciple and explained, Senior Jian, let's not talk about how he is just an ordinary disciple of the alchemy room. Even a Grandmaster Alchemist would not know about the conflict between the detoxification pill and the three-tailed scorpion heartgrass. Then what should I do now? Seeing that Yu Haoran had taken the initiative to stand in front of the Achievement Hall disciple, the sword without trace knew that he had nearly lost his mind due to his anger. After taking a deep breath and calming himself down, the sword without trace asked with a trembling voice and a trace of sobbing, "Senior Jian, I came to the Achievement Hall this time to refine some detoxification pills." Yu Haoran could not help but frown when he saw that the sword without trace, who was already at the peak of 9th grade martial master and had gone through many hardships, was actually crying like a woman. However, when he thought of the sword without trace's current situation and the fact that he had the ability to break through to the martial ancestor realm, but was unable to do so due to being poisoned, he reluctantly came into contact with the sword without trace and decided to help him one more time. "Senior Jian, if you believe me, then wait for me outside the alchemy room for 2 hours. I will help you refine a detoxification pill for the three-tailed scorpion heartgrass." Junior Yu, could it be that you are a grandmaster alchemist? In 2 hours, he would be able to refine a detoxification pill for the three-tailed scorpion heartgrass. After hearing Yu Haoran's suggestion, the sword without trace stared at him with wide eyes and asked with a face full of shock, "Hee." Without directly answering the sword without trace's question, Yu Haoran only lightly laughed twice before turning his head to instruct the Achievement Hall disciple. "Based on my understanding of the Achievement Hall, you definitely have the heart-devouring grass, bone-corroding flower." Yu Haoran listed out 9 types of poisonous medicinal ingredients in a row and ordered without any hesitation, "I will give you 5 minutes to bring them to me. Hurry up and go." Seeing the Achievement Hall disciple standing there in a daze, Deacon Xia roared in a low voice, "Yes." The Achievement Hall disciple was awakened by Deacon Xia's roar and hurriedly turned around and ran to the alchemy room. "Deacon Xia, which alchemy room will I use to refine pills?" After the Achievement Hall disciple turned around and left, Yu Haoran asked Deacon Xia. "That one," Deacon Xia said as he pointed at a row of 10 rooms made of bluestone towers. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran walked straight to the alchemy room that Deacon Xia pointed out. He then pushed open the bluestone stone door and stepped into the alchemy room. Chapter 361. Achievement Palace Hall, Alchemy Room. Not bad. Through the Yuanli defense, Yu Haoran carefully felt the temperature in the alchemy room. He discovered that the temperature in the alchemy room was very suitable for the pills that he was refining. He could not help but feel happy. He stood at the entrance of the alchemy room and waited for a while. After the Achievement Palace Hall disciples brought the 9 medicinal ingredients needed to refine the antidote pill, Yu Haoran heavily closed the green stone door. After the green stone door was closed, the sword without trace stood in front of the green stone door in a flash. He then looked at Attendant Xia and the Achievement Palace Hall disciples with a vigilant expression. The meaning in his eyes was very clear. He suspected that they might disturb Yu Haoran's pill refining. "There's nothing else here. You can all leave." Waving his hand at the Achievement Palace Hall disciples, Attendant Xia indicated for them to leave. He then walked to the opposite side of the sword without trace and closed his eyes. He also looked like he was waiting for Yu Haoran to come out of seclusion. Time flowed like water. 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye. Yu Haoran sat cross-legged in front of the alchemy furnace. Although his face was slightly pale, his spirit was very excited. After his rebirth, although he had lost his cultivation and soul of a peak 9th grade martial king, the alchemy skills that he had accumulated in his previous life had not decreased. He still maintained his excellent standards. In 2 hours, not only did he successfully refine 3 foundation establishment pills that were suitable for the initial stage of cultivation, he also refined 9 antidote pills. At the same time, he also refined a few pills that were suitable for raising the level of a martial master. Although he could continue to refine more pills with his current state and his stock of medicinal herbs, he could only temporarily end this round of pill refining because he was tied up with miscellaneous matters. With the help of a pill that could restore Yuan Li, Yu Haoran recovered the Yuan Li that he had used to refine the pills. He then stood up and left the alchemy room. When he saw Attendant Xia standing guard outside the door, he was slightly stunned. Following that, His face revealed a relieved expression. Deacon Xia had been standing guard here all this time, not because he was worried about his own safety, but because he was worried that some ignorant fellows in the Achievement Hall might disturb his alchemy and incur his wrath, thus implicating the Achievement Hall. The reason he was guarding this place was to intimidate the disciples in his palace. Senior Brother Jian, here you go. Yu Haoran casually tossed the bottle containing the antidote to the sword without trace before taking out another bottle from his storage ear and tossing it to Deacon Xia. Regardless of whether it's the alchemy room or the medicinal ingredients used to refine the detoxification pills, they all belong to your merit hall. Therefore, these 5 detoxification pills can be considered as compensation. Reaching out to catch the pill bottle that Yu Haoran threw over, Enforcer Xia looked at Yu Haoran in a daze. He did not expect that Yu Haoran, who was secretly called the Butcher, was actually a reasonable person who could distinguish right from wrong. Reaching out to open the pill bottle, Deacon Xia poured out one of the pills and carefully observed it. Following that, he looked at Yu Haoran with a face of shock. As the deacon of the Achievement Hall, Deacon Xia was mainly in charge of the alchemy room. Being in contact with pills for many years, he had a very deep understanding of the grade and quality of pills. The detoxification pill that Yu Haoran threw over not only reached the 1st grade of the 7th grade, but its quality was also far superior to the pills refined by the sect's #1 alchemy grandmaster, Lai Yan. This meant that Yu Haoran's alchemy cultivation had already reached the level of an alchemy grandmaster. In less than 3 months after joining the sect, his cultivation had consecutively broken through to the mid-5th grade of martial master. He also possessed the secret technique to transform into a 5th grade beast and was also proficient in refining pills. Looking at the 17-year-old Yu Haoran in front of him, Deacon Xia was shocked and wanted to befriend him. However, he knew that his status was too low and his aptitude was too shallow. He did not have the qualifications to befriend Yu Haoran. Therefore, he planned to wait until Yu Haoran left before carefully discussing with the new hall master to see if he could resolve the conflict between Yu Haoran and the Achievement Hall and establish a good relationship with him. Junior Brother Yu, the 3-tailed scorpion heart medicine in my body has begun to weaken. After consuming the pill that Yu Haoran had given him, the sword without trace had been carefully feeling the changes in his body. When he discovered that the 3-tailed scorpion heart poison in his body was no longer corroding his yuan power and had begun to weaken, he immediately shouted in surprise. Senior Brother Sword, don't be happy too early. Yu Haoran, who was very familiar with the 3-tailed scorpion heart medicine, knew that the weakening of the poison did not mean that the poison had disappeared. He was worried that the hot-tempered sword without trace would choose to break through to the martial ancestor realm directly after sensing that his yuan power was no longer corroded by the 3-tailed scorpion heart poison. In the end, he would suffer a backlash from the poison. Therefore, he hurriedly reminded him, actually, the 3-tailed scorpion heart medicine's poison has not completely disappeared. It still remains in your body. Therefore, it is not suitable for you to break through to the martial ancestor realm directly. You still need to rest for 3 to 5 days. I will remember. The sword without trace nodded heavily, indicating that he had remembered. Then, he formed a sword flower with one hand and used the highest etiquette of a swordsman to express his gratitude and solemnly promise. Junior Brother Yu, I, the sword without trace, owe you my life. In the future, if there is anything that you need me for, even if it is climbing a mountain of blades or diving into a sea of fire, I, the sword without trace, will not even frown. Senior Brother Sword, you are too serious. After being courteous, Yu Haoran directly said his goodbyes and turned to leave the Achievement Hall. Seeing Yu Haoran's back gradually disappear into the distance, the sword without trace stretched out his hand and touched his face. A trace of helplessness flashed across his eyes. When he returned to the hidden moon pavilion of the Clear Cloud Peak, he happened to meet Gongsun Yuding, who was rushing over. After indicating for her to follow him into the cultivation room, Yu Haoran did not immediately give her the Foundation Establishment pill, nor did he guide her in her cultivation. Instead, he waited until her breathing had completely stabilized before speaking. Yuding, Although your talent is extremely outstanding and you have the potential to become Emperor Wu, the path of cultivation is still against the heavens. The path of cultivation is filled with countless tribulations. If you are not careful, you may be consigned to eternal damnation. Therefore, if you want to overcome the various tribulations on the path of cultivation, there is only one way, and that is to work hard to raise your cultivation and strength. The higher your cultivation, the stronger your strength, and the stronger your ability to deal with the tribulations. You will also be able to live longer. Normally speaking, when instructing a disciple in their first cultivation lesson, they would usually talk about some things to pay attention to in the process of cultivation, as well as the glorious achievements of some of the sect's genius disciples. With this, they would encourage the new disciples to work hard in their cultivation. However, after experiencing numerous tribulations in his previous life, Yu Haoran, who understood the cruelty of this world, did not intend to do so. He wanted to tell Gongsun Yuding that if you want to live, you must work hard in your cultivation. If you want to live better, you must be ruthless to others and even more ruthless to yourself. Yu Xiao, I will remember this. Nodding her head, Gongsun Yuding replied with a solemn expression. In fact, during her time living in the ancient town sect, because she lived in the chores area, there were often new disciples who had just entered the sect. Therefore, she often heard some of the instructors of the ancient town sect when they were guiding the new disciples in their first cultivation. Originally, she thought that Yu Haoran would be like those instructors, rambling on and on about the same old dogma. She had already chosen to close her ears to avoid being tortured. However, what she did not expect was that Yu Haoran would actually talk about such a different and somewhat too serious topic. That's enough. Seeing Gongsun Yuding's overly serious expression, Yu Haoran knew that his words just now were too serious and hurriedly said to ease the atmosphere. Yuding, what I said just now was just to let you know the cruelty of this world. I hope you don't waste your outstanding talent. For you, for your brother, and for Qingyun Peak, you must work hard in your cultivation. Chapter 362. Clear Cloud Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. Yuding, when you were testing your talent and potential, I accidentally discovered that your bones were sparkling and translucent, and there was a faint trace of immortal energy rippling. It's very similar to a legendary special constitution. Therefore, to target this special constitution and combine it with your monstrous potential, I have a set of techniques that is very suitable for your constitution and potential. At this point, Yu Haoran suddenly stood up and instructed with a solemn expression. Yuding, you stand up too. Gongsun Yuding, who was confused by Yu Haoran's inexplicable actions, stood up obediently and looked at Yu Haoran with a puzzled expression, not knowing what he wanted to do next. Yuding, the technique I'm going to impart to you next is a heaven, earth, mystic, and yellow level mental cultivation that surpasses the knowledge of most martial artists in the Tianxin continent. It's a divine level mental cultivation technique that surpasses the heaven level. Looking straight into Gongsun Yuding's eyes, Yu Haoran said the name of the divine level mental cultivation technique word by word. This divine level mental cultivation technique is called Nine Heavens Mystic. Hearing that the mental cultivation technique Yu Haoran was about to impart to her was actually a divine level mental cultivation technique that surpassed the heaven level, Gongsun Yuding's originally puzzled expression was instantly replaced by shock, and her heart was in turmoil. Although she had never truly come into contact with cultivation, the special environment that she lived in allowed her to understand many aspects of cultivation in advance. For example, the grade of the mental cultivation technique, the quality of the mental cultivation technique, and the effect it had on one's cultivation and strength. According to what she knew, in the ancient town sect, most of the disciples cultivated in the middle and high stages of the yellow level. Only the elite disciples had the qualifications and opportunity to come into contact with the high and peak stages of the yellow level. Only the core and legacy disciples had the qualifications to cultivate the low-level mystic level mental cultivation technique. As the ancient town sect's treasure, only the sect master could cultivate the mystic azure split god transformation, and its grade was only at the high-level mystic level. Back in the sect, when she was listening to the idle conversations of the disciples around her, one of the more outstanding disciples who liked to collect information and inquire about other people's affairs said that, among the mantras collected by the second-rate sect, the 100 Chi Gate, the highest grade was only a low-grade, earth-rank mantra. Only in the top 7 sects could there possibly be a heaven-class mental cultivation method. Now, the 9 Heavens profound heart technique that Yu Shixiang passed on to her was actually a peerless heart technique that surpassed the heaven rank and reached the divine rank. How could this not shock Gongsun Yuding and move her heart? Yu Shixiang, Yuding, it's not that I don't believe you, but the 9 Heaven mystic cultivation method is too shocking. If someone knows the origin and grade of this cultivation method, I'm afraid it will bring endless trouble and disaster to you, to me, to your brother, and even to the entire Qingyan Peak. Yu Haoran stretched out his hand to indicate that Gongsun Yuding did not need to thank him. And then he kept looking at her until she could accept the shock brought by the 9 Heavens' profound heart technique. Only then did he continue to speak. So, I now ask you to swear by the rules of heaven that you will never reveal the slightest secret of the 9 Heavens' profound heart technique, and you can't privately impart the 9 Heavens' profound heart technique to others, even your brother Gongsun Yiming. Otherwise, your spirit will forever be in the devil's prison. If she did not know the grade of the 9 Heavens' profound heart technique, Gongsun Yuding would definitely be very uncomfortable in the face of Yu Haoran's request just now, because this meant that Yu Haoran did not believe in her at all. Even if she stayed in Qingyan Peak, she was afraid that she would not be valued. But now, not only could Gongsun Yuding accept it gladly, but she also believed that the 9 Heavens' profound heart technique was indeed, as Yu Haoran said, a divine class cultivation method that surpassed the heaven class. Otherwise, with his strength and knowledge, there was no need for him to be so serious about it. After swearing by the rules of heaven and her own spirit, and then sitting cross-legged again, Yu Haoran stretched out his hand and Thaling used his divine, thought to condense the first 6 levels of the 9 Heavens' profound heart technique into Gongsun Yuding's mind. Yuding, I've used a special method to seal every level of the cultivation method that I just sent into your mind. Only when your cultivation breaks through this level will you be able to see the contents of this level of cultivation method. After the first 6 levels of the 9 Heavens' profound heart technique were transmitted into Gongsun Yuding's mind, Yu Haoran continued to explain. I did this mainly to prevent some people with bad intentions and powerful strength from using the soul-searching secret technique to check your memory. It is also to prevent the contents of the 9 Heavens' profound heart technique from being leaked out. It can be considered as preparation for a rainy day. Yu Shixiang, I understand. Nodding, Gongsun Yuding finally understood why she could not see the contents of the 9 Heavens' profound heart technique just now. It turned out that all of this was sealed by Yu Shixiang. Yuding, this is a foundation establishment pill that I just refined. It can let your cultivation enter the martial disciple realm and build a perfect foundation. Next, 100 Chi Gate, 100 Chi Peak. Yu Haoran took a deep breath as he looked at the strangely shaped mountain peak that resembled a ruler. Then, he turned his head and reminded Gongsun Yuding. Let's go. Nodding, Gongsun Yuding quickly quickened her pace and followed. Martial nephew Yu. Everyone on 100 Chi Peak had already known about the conflict at the trial peak yesterday, and also knew the final result of the conflict. When they thought about how even the sect leader, who was a martial emperor, had been forced to admit defeat by Yu Haoran and agree to the humiliating conditions of opening the treasury, all the disciples of the sect leader felt extremely humiliated. Therefore, knowing that today was the day that Yu Haoran came to pick the treasures in the treasury, all the disciples of the sect felt ashamed. They either hid in their rooms or went out to train in advance. Yu Haoran, who had reached the peak, was not only unimpeded, but also did not see a single disciple of the sect leader's faction. When he reached the peak of 100 Chi Peak, he saw the deputy peak master of 100 Chi Peak, Jiangming Lu, who had led the team to participate in the Blue Moon Secret Realm training. Disciple Yu Haoran greets Deputy Peak Master Jiang. Only Zhao Ji and his son had a grudge against 100 Chi Peak, so Yu Haoran still greeted Jiang Minglu respectfully. Disciple Gongsun Yuding greets Deputy Peak Master Jiang. Seeing that Yu Xiang had taken the initiative to greet him, Gongsun Yuding, who was following behind him, did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly greeted him. Martial nephew Yu, you're welcome. Jiang Minglu smiled and nodded with a gentle expression. Then he put away the smile on his face and said seriously, "First of all, I apologize on behalf of the Peak Master to Martial Nephew Yu for the conflict yesterday. Our sect leader's faction was in the wrong." Deputy Peak Master Jiang, since it's all in the past, there's no need to mention it now. Yu Haoran said indifferently, not accepting Jiang Minglu's apology on behalf of Zhao Ji and his son. Jiang Minglu did not care about this and continued to follow Zhao Ji's instructions. Secondly, 100 Qi Peak's treasury has been opened. Martial nephew, you can freely enter and leave. Yu Hauer nodded and did not say anything else. That was because 100 Qi Peak's treasury was open to him for one day. This was the request that Zhao Ji had agreed to yesterday. It was also the fundamental reason why he had changed the direction of the Skyward Strike. Lastly, after the conflict ended yesterday, and Martial Nephew Yu returned to Clear Cloud Peak, Zhao Lei of the Law Enforcement Peak's criminal court suddenly brought people to arrest Sinyu. He said that he had violated the Law Enforcement Peak's laws and needed to be interrogated. Speaking of this, Jiang Minglu pleaded with a bitter expression. Martial Nephew Yu, can you plead for mercy on behalf of Sinyu on behalf of me, the Deputy Peak Master? Chapter 363. At the top of 100 Feet Peak, Deputy Peak Master Jiang, I think you've made a mistake. After being stunned, Yu Haoran said with a wry smile, Zhao Sinyu has tried to kill me time and time again. It's good enough that I didn't take the opportunity to hit him when he's down. How could I help him? What's more, everyone in the sect knows about my conflict with the Law Enforcement Peak and my hatred for Gao Wamping. If you ask me to beg Gao Wamping now, it's not saving Zhao Sinyu, but harming him. Jiang Minglu couldn't help but sigh when he saw that Yu Haoran didn't even think about it. In fact, the idea of asking Yu Haoran to help Zhao Sinyu was not Jiang Minglu's idea, but Zhao Ji, who was forced into a corner by Gao Wamping, came up with this idea at the last minute. Everyone in the 100 Feet Gate knew about the deep hatred between Yu Haoran and the Peak Master of Law Enforcement Peak. However, Zhao Ji wanted to use the hatred between them and Yu Haoran's terrifying deterrence to force Gao Wamping to release Zhao Sinyu. To put it bluntly, this was both a conspiracy and an overt one. Unfortunately, how could the astute Yu Haoran not smell the scent of a scheme? That was why he flatly refused. Alas, Jiang Minglu sighed, then turned around and led Yu Haoran to the treasure house of 100 Feet Peak. In a courtyard not far from the top of 100 Feet Peak, Zhao Ji, who was full of expectation, saw Jiang Minglu turn around and go straight to the treasure house in disappointment. He knew that Yu Haoran did not agree to his request just now, and his face instantly darkened. Although he knew that asking Yu Haoran to come forward to intimidate the Law Enforcement Peak, or rather intimidate Gao Wamping and force them to release Zhao Sinyu, was a risky move and the success rate was very low, Zhao Ji was also the only way he could think of in this situation. Because Gao Wamping of the Law Enforcement Peak was different from the other peak masters of the sect. Firstly, the Enforcer Peak had a very special position in the sect. They never participated in any conflict between the sects, which was also commonly known as the Centrist faction. As a result, several peak systems that had the strength to participate in the factional battles were desperately trying to curry favor and rope in a Law Enforcement Peak. With the overall strength of the Law Enforcement Peak, as long as Gao Wamping helped anyone, that person would be able to surpass the sect leader's faction and become a #1 faction in the sect. From there, they would be able to completely suppress the sect leader's faction and vice-sect leader Lai Yan's faction. Secondly, because the Law Enforcement Peak had never participated in the conflicts between the factions, every faction would try their best to curry favor with the Law Enforcement Peak, and at the same time, give the Law Enforcement Peak some convenience and benefits. As a result, not only did the Law Enforcement Peak's overall strength increase steadily, but the number of top experts also far exceeded any of the factions in the sect. Thirdly, the ones who could really decide the life and death of the 100 Chi Gate were not the Gatemaster's faction that Zhao Ji belonged to, but the elders on the Elders' Peak in the depths of the sect. Out of the 13 elders in the Council of Elders, 5 of them belonged to the Law Enforcement Peak. It was because of all these reasons that Gao Wanping could act independently in the sect. He did not obey the orders of the sect leader at all, let alone release Zhao Xinyu. After thinking about it from the beginning to the end, Zhao Ji realized that with his strength and means, he could not rescue Zhao Xinyu in a short time. Helpless, he could only get up and leave the 100 Chi Gate, intending to ask Zhao Xinyu's mother, who was also the deputy pavilion master of the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion, for help. Yu Haoran, this is the treasure house of our 100 Chi Peak. Pointing at the 6-story treasure house that was far more majestic than the treasure house of the Law Enforcement Peak, Jiang Minglu said with some heartache. After all, Yu Haoran had directly emptied the entire treasure house of the Law Enforcement Peak in less than a month. His greed and robberies had been spread throughout the sect. Therefore, Jiang Minglu knew that the treasures and cultivation resources that the 100 Chi Peak had accumulated for hundreds of years were about to fall into Yu Haoran's storage device. How could he not feel heartache? Thank you, Deputy Peak Master, for leading the way. After thanking Jiang Minglu, Yu Haoran led Gongsun Yuding into the first level of the treasure house. But just as they stepped into the first level, Yu Haoran frowned slightly. Although the spirit chi on the first level of the treasure house was very rich, it lacked a kind of purity that was unique to high-quality spirit chi. This situation could only mean one thing. That was, the spirit stones of the 7th level and above on the first level of the treasure house had been taken away in advance. Yuding, take as many spirit stones as you like. Anyway, the storage device I gave you has enough space inside. Turning his head to look at Gongsun Yuding, who was completely stunned by the spirit stones placed in front of her, Yu Haoran reminded her with a smile. Pointing at the spirit stones on the shelf in front of her, Gongsun Yuding asked in disbelief, "Can I?" "Of course you can." Nodding, Yu Haoran continued. "You choose the spirit stones you like here first. I'll look around." Yu Shixiao, you go ahead." Gongsun Yuding, whose eyes did not leave the spirit stones at all, replied subconsciously. Looking at Gongsun Yuding's money-grubbing appearance, Yu Haoran could not help but shake his head. Although Gongsun Yuding had the talent and potential of a monstrous genius, and also had the special constitution of the immortal bone, in order to let her fully utilize her advantages, and also to determine whether the cultivation method provided by the Thaling sect was suitable for her. In the preliminary guidance of her cultivation, Yu Haoran only used the Foundation Establishment Pill to help her lay the foundation of the martial disciple realm, and then let her rely on her own talent and potential to attract spirit chi to attack the meridians in her body. He did not give her a large number of spirit stones and pills. Although he was not sure whether the Thaling sect's guidance method was suitable for Gongsun Yuding, the spirit stones placed in front of him were only low-grade spirit stones, which were of great help to him now. Even if Gongsun Yuding did not take them away, he would not take them away for the time being. Waving his hand, he motioned for Gongsun Yuding to choose the spirit stone she liked. Yu Haoran placed his hands behind his back and began to inspect the first floor of the treasure house. When he came to the depths of the first floor of the treasure house and saw the empty wooden shelf, there was still a trace of the aura of high-grade spirit stones remaining. Yu Haoran's face instantly became gloomy. Then, he used his movement technique and directly came to the second floor of the treasure house. Seeing that the place where the precious herbs were supposed to be was empty, he did not stop and quickly went to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th floor. However, the situation on the 4th floor was the same as the 1st and 2nd floor. The most precious treasures had been moved away in advance. Seeing this situation, Yu Haoran could not help but sneer. Then, he returned to the first floor of the treasure house and stepped out of the treasure house. "Marshal nephew Yu, have you finished choosing?" From entering the treasure house to coming out, Yu Haoran only spent less than 3 minutes. In such a short time, it was impossible to empty the entire treasure house. Therefore, Jiang Minglu asked in confusion. Deputy Peak Master Jiang, what is the meaning of this? Coldly looking at Jiang Minglu, Yu Haoran asked in an unfriendly tone. Martial nephew Yu, what happened? Hearing the suppressed anger in Yu Haoran's tone, Jiang Minglu vaguely had a bad feeling. However, whether it was as he guessed, he still needed Yu Haoran to explain in detail. Come with me. Seeing that the confusion on Jiang Minglu's face was not fake, Yu Haoran guessed that he probably did not know that the precious treasures in the treasure house were taken out in advance. Chapter 364. 100 Qi Peak, Inside the Treasury. Vice Peak Master Jiang. Ever since I entered the treasury, I haven't touched a single thing inside, nor have I taken anything. Now, please check it out yourself. Yu Haoran said, as he pointed to the depths of the first level of the treasury. Jiang Minglu flashed into the depths of the first level of the treasury, and in just 3 seconds, he walked out with a gloomy face. Then, he ignored Yu Haoran and used his movement technique to rush to the second level of the treasury, then the third level, all the way to the 6th level. It didn't take long, only a minute or so, and the gloomy Jiang Minglu returned to the first level of the treasury. Vice Peak Master Jiang, with my current strength and vision, do you think these ordinary goods can still catch my eye? Yu Haoran asked as he pointed to the level 9 spirit stones on the wooden shelf. Martial nephew Yu, I also don't know who took the most precious treasure in the treasury in advance. Jiang Minglu said as he shook his head, suppressing the anger in his heart. What kind of person was Yu Haoran? After experiencing 4 bloody conflicts at the Achievement Hall, Enforcer Peak, Secret Realm Valley, and Trial Peak, everyone in the 100 Qi Gate knew that if he didn't go his way, he would directly take action. And the result of taking action would be serious injuries, and in the worst case, death. Taking away the most precious treasure in the treasury in advance, and then letting him face Yu Haoran's anger. This was the same as pushing him into a hot stove. Therefore, Jiang Minglu also hated the person who took the most precious treasure in the treasury in advance. Vice Peak Master Jiang. Yesterday's cooperation with Zhao Ji was very sincere. Otherwise, I wouldn't have forcefully changed the direction of the staff attack. But I don't want some people to ignore the sincerity of Yu Haoran. Otherwise, I will reconsider the true direction of the single staff facing the sky attack. After leaving behind these threatening words, Yu Haoran called out to Gong Sun Yuding, who was choosing spirit stones, and then left the treasury. Martial nephew Yu, please wait for a moment. Seeing Yu Haoran leave the treasury with Gong Sun Yuding, Jiang Minglu recalled the direction of the staff technique he had mentioned earlier. How could Jiang Minglu not understand his intentions? Thinking of the crack that was about 10,000 meters long and tens of meters deep, Jiang Minglu couldn't help but shudder. Then, he shouted to stop them as he chased after them. Rushing in front of Yu Haoran and blocking him from leaving, Jiang Minglu said anxiously, Martial nephew Yu, give me 30 minutes. I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. 5 minutes. I'll only wait here for 10 minutes. Coldly glancing at Jiang Minglu, Yu Haoran took out his purple staff and gave him a time limit. Although yesterday's conflict had already consumed all the energy of the large Power King Kong ape's blood essence, and he no longer had the strength to transform into a strange beast, nor was he able to use the single staff facing the sky technique, Yu Haoran believed that just by standing here with the purple staff in his hand, the deterrence was enough to make everyone in the sect leader's faction tremble in fear. Seeing Yu Haoran take out the purple staff, how could Jiang Minglu not understand the meaning behind it? Therefore, he used his maximum speed and rushed towards the courtyard not far from the treasury. Yu Shixiang, what happened? Originally, she could casually choose a spirit stone that she liked, which made Gong Sun Yuding very happy and excited. However, Yu Haoran's change in expression and threat made her realize that something had happened. However, the shrewder did not interrupt and ask too much. Only after Jiang Minglu left did she carefully ask, It's nothing. It's just a group of people who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They took away some of the things that should have belonged to me in advance. Indicating that Gongsun Yuding was fine, Yu Haoran explained with a smile. Although there was a smile on his face, Gongsun Yuding could still feel the suppressed anger in Yu Haoran's tone. Thinking back to when her second senior brother was arranging the accommodation for her and her brother, he had specially instructed her to immediately inform them when Yu Haoran was facing danger and difficulties, so that he wouldn't have to bear everything by himself. Gongsun Yuding quietly crushed a communication jade talisman that her second senior brother had given her. Before the agreed time of 10 minutes was up, Jiang Minglu rushed back. However, when he saw that the gloomy expression on his face had not dissipated, Yu Haoran knew that today's matter was somewhat complicated. Martial nephew Yu, Sect Master, had an urgent matter and left 100 Feet Peak early. Returning to Yu Haoran, Jiang Minglu directly explained. Vice Peak Master Jiang, today's matter was not targeted at you. Zhao Ji's intention to leave 100 Feet Peak was very obvious. Therefore, Yu Haoran waved the purple staff in his hand and threatened with a cold smile. It seems that I, Yu Haoran, have not caused much of a stir recently. Some people actually intend to challenge my authority. If I don't use some methods now, I'm afraid that my title as the killing god and butcher of Yu Haoran will be looked down upon. Yu Haoran threatened eagerly as he knocked the stone beneath his feet with the purple staff in his hand. I don't know if the hardness of 100 Feet Peak can withstand the power of my single staff facing the sky. Martial nephew Yu, I beg you not to do it. Please listen to me first. I will give you a satisfactory answer. Seeing that Yu Haoran intended to use that terrifying staff technique to directly attack 100 Feet Peak, Jiang Minglu pleaded with a frightened expression. Speak. A threat could only be a threat. Now that he did not have the ability to use the single staff facing the sky, Yu Haoran naturally took the opportunity to put away the purple staff. Although the Peak Master has left 100 Feet Peak, I've already found out who took the precious treasures in the treasury in advance. Seeing that Yu Haoran had put away the purple staff, Jiang Minglu could not help but heave a sigh of relief, and then explained. Who is it? Yu Haoran immediately asked with a murderous look. Zhao Kongming. Jiang Minglu first gave a name, and then introduced Zhao Kongming's identity in detail. In fact, without Jiang Minglu's detailed introduction, Yu Haoran already knew Zhao Kongming very well. If Zhao Xinyu was the illegitimate son of Zhao Ji and had the support of the Deputy Pavilion Master of Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion, he had the hope and ability to compete for the position of the next Sect Master of 100 Chi Gate. Then, Zhao Kongming relied on his own talent, potential, and powerful strength to compete for the position of the next Sect Master. This was because Zhao Kongming was one of the peerless geniuses of the 100 Chi Gate in terms of talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance. He, Gong Yuan of Mare Hall, and Ouying Haoyu of Law Enforcement Peak were known as the three talents of 100 Feet Peak. They were also the most outstanding, peerless geniuses of the younger generation. However, no matter how strong Zhao Kongming's talent and potential were, he should know that with the secret transformation technique, he could even defeat Gao Wanping and Zhao Ji, who were in the martial royal realm. Then, what strength and courage did he have to steal the treasures that belonged to him in advance? Looking straight at Jiang Minglu, Yu Haoran hoped that he could clear up his doubts. Half a month ago, Zhao Kongming entered the first-rate sect, Heaven's Sword Sect, and became the successor disciple of the broken sword martial saint, Yang Shuguan. Jiang Minglu's tone revealed a trace of envy as he explained. I see. After hearing Jiang Minglu's explanation, Yu Haoran nodded. He finally understood why Zhao Kongming dared to steal the treasures in advance. It turned out that he came to the delivery room to get a promotion. However, did Zhao Kongming think that after entering the Heaven Sword Sect and becoming the successor disciple of the broken sword martial saint, Yang Shuguan, he could ignore him and steal his treasures? Deputy Peak Master Jiang, where is Zhao Kongming? Yu Haoran asked with a murderous look. Chapter 365. 100 Feet Peak, in front of the treasury. He's lucky. Hearing that Zhao Kongming had already left the 100 Feet Gate, Yu Haoran could only throw his fist at a nearby bluestone. Looking at the bluestone that had been smashed into pieces, Thinking that he had been fooled, he felt quite unhappy and unwilling. At this moment, several whistling sounds quickly approached the 100-feet peak. Looking up, Yu Haoran discovered that the whistling sounds belonged to none other than Qingyun's people. Ninth junior brother, I received a message from junior sister Yuding, saying that you're in trouble. Chu Zhongyu, who was the strongest and fastest, was the first to land in front of Yu Haoran. He then stared at Jiang Minglu like a tiger eyeing its prey. Although Jiang Minglu was still a 9th-grade martial king, Chu Zhongyu did not show the slightest bit of fear. Turning his head to glare at Gongsun Yuding, Yu Haoran explained with a smile, I'm not in any trouble. I was just robbed by a treacherous villain and lost some treasures. Who has the guts to rob my 9th junior brother's treasures? Huang Zonghua, who had just arrived, asked with a murderous look. Zhao Kongming. Looking at Huang Zonghua with a faint smile, Yu Haoran directly said the name of the culprit. So it's that brat. After hearing that the culprit was Zhao Kongming, Huang Zonghua was immediately shocked. However, after seeing Yu Haoran's faint smile, he immediately knew that he had been fooled. However, who was Huang Zonghua? In terms of the thickness of his face, he was second only to Yu Haoran. Therefore, he did not blush and directly pushed the blame to Chu Zhongyu and Yu Haoran. Zhao Kongming is too weak. I don't even want to deal with him. I'll leave it to eldest senior brother and 9th junior brother. Regarding Huang Zonghua's shamelessness, Yu Haoran only shook his head with a smile. Then, he turned his head to look at the 6th floor of the 100-feet peak treasury and thought of revenge. Since senior brothers and junior brothers are here, it just so happens that junior brother is in a bad mood right now, so I'll have to trouble you to help junior brother vent his anger. 9th junior brother, speak. Helping Yu Haoran vent his anger was what all the disciples of the Clear Cloud faction wanted to do. Now that Yu Haoran could make use of them, Chu Zhongyu asked excitedly. Yu Haoran roared as he pointed to the 6th floor of the treasury. Help me empty out all the treasures in the treasury and then destroy it. Is this appropriate? Turning to look at Jiang Minglu, Chu Zhongyu hesitated for a moment. After all, destroying a faction's treasury was tantamount to declaring war. But just as Chu Zhongyu hesitated, Wu Zhengjun, Gongsun Yiming, Lin Xian, and Huang Zonghua rushed into the treasury without caring about anything else. In the end, he could only chase after them. Seeing Gongsun Yuding in a daze, Yu Haoran reminded jokingly, Yuding, if you're any slower, not to mention those precious elixirs, even if it's the lowest grade spirit stone, the stingy 5th senior brother won't leave anything for you. Damn it! Coming back to her senses, Gongsun Yuding saw that her brother and 9 senior brothers had already rushed into the treasury. She stomped her feet and followed closely behind. Deputy Peak Leader Jiang, don't blame me for going overboard, Yu Haoran said to the dazed Jiang Minglu as the eldest senior brother and the others went to snatch the treasures in the treasury. As the most important treasury of 100 Feet Peak, I don't believe that there are no experts guarding it. Zhao Kongming, a mere martial ancestor, without the approval of your 100 Feet Peak experts, how could he enter the treasury, let alone take away so many treasures? Jiang Minglu lowered his head in response to Yu Haoran's accusation. He did not refute it, nor did he know how to. Emptying the treasures and destroying the treasury is only the first step of my revenge. Yu Haoran continued to threaten the silent Jiang Minglu without the slightest bit of pity. And the second step of my revenge is to execute one strike to the sky and directly destroy 100 Feet Peak. Martial nephew, you speak. Yu Haoran would gain nothing from destroying 100 Feet Peak, other than wasting physical strength and the blood essence of exotic beasts. Therefore, Jiang Minglu knew that he was using threats to make his demands. I won't make any demands. I just want to see the sincerity of 100 Feet Peak. Looking up at the courtyard on the peak, Yu Haoran left the other party with a difficult problem. Awesome. After emptying the treasury, Chu Zhongyu and the others rushed out excitedly. As for the lively Huang Zonghua, he could not help but shout excitedly. Eldest senior brother, destroy it. With a wave of his hand, he put all the resources that second senior brother and the others had plundered into his storage ring. Then, He pointed to the sixth floor of the treasury and instructed, shaking the heavens and earth, gathering all the origin energy of a martial king. Chu Zhongyu executed the fist technique that he had been dreaming of. A huge fist landed heavily on the sixth floor of the treasury. Unfortunately, as one of the most important forbidden areas of 100 Feet Peak, the sixth floor of the treasury was not only made of sturdy materials, it was also reinforced by a defensive formation. Chu Zhongyu looked at Yu Haoran in shock. His full-powered punch had only caused the treasury to shake slightly. Other than being shocked by the firmness of the treasury, he could only look at Yu Haoran in a daze. Insignificant skill. The sturdy materials of the treasury could not withstand the full strength of Chu Zhongyu's martial king fist technique. The only thing that could offset the power of the fist technique was the defensive formation on the treasury. With a disdainful sneer, Yu Haoran appeared in front of the treasury in a flash. Then, he quickly formed a seal with his 10 fingers. Every time he formed a seal, he pressed it on a different spot in the treasury. When the last seal was placed on the treasury, the originally majestic aura of the treasury had completely disappeared, except for the fact that it was more majestic and magnificent. Eldest senior brother, try again. Yu Haoran returned to Chu Zhongyu's side in a flash, shaking the heavens and earth, mobilizing all the origin energy of a martial king. Chu Zhongyu executed the same fist technique for the second time. Boom! The huge fist landed heavily on the top of the sixth floor of the treasury. Accompanied by a deafening roar, the sixth floor of the treasury exploded in an instant, and a cloud of dust covered the entire peak. Deputy Peak Master Jiang, pass a message to Zhao Ji for me. After the sixth floor of the treasury was destroyed, Yu Haoran turned to leave 100 Feet Peak. But just as he was about to leave, he suddenly said to Jiang Minglu, "Martial nephew, you say it." Jiang Minglu said nervously, "Zhao Ji, Yu Haoran, am not a patient person. I'll only give you 1 day. After 1 day, if I don't see your sincerity, then the staff technique you faced back then will explode on 100 Feet Peak." After leaving these words, Yu Haoran left 100 Feet Peak. Chu Zhongyu and the others hurriedly chased after him. Looking at Yu Haoran leaving the 100 Feet Peak, and then turning to look at the shattered treasure vault, Jiang Minglu's face instantly aged a lot. Chapter 366. Hidden Moon Pavilion. Inside the Wind Pavilion. These cultivation resources were collected according to where you place them. You can take them now. Yu Haoran instructed as he waved his hand and took out the cultivation resources that he had just collected and placed them neatly on the ground. Ninth junior brother, is it okay for us to do that? Although emptying the sect leader's treasury would make sect leader Zhao Ji angry, with the precedent of the Enforcer Peak's treasury, Zhao Ji would probably be able to tolerate it even if he was angry. However, directly destroying the other party's treasury was equivalent to giving him a resounding slap in the face. Given Zhao Ji's prideful personality, he would definitely come and fight them to the death. Therefore, Chu Zhongyu asked worriedly, "Eldest senior brother, don't worry. Even if you gave Zhao Ji 10 guts, he wouldn't dare." Yu Haoran said confidently as he gestured to Chu Zhongyu not to worry. "Actually, I'm looking forward to Zhao Ji killing his way to Qingyan Peak. In that case, I can also vent the depression that has accumulated in my heart. Forget it. Anyway, as long as it's your business, you can do whatever you want." Thinking about it, if Zhao Ji really killed his way to Qingyan Peak, Yu Haoran, who had the secret transformation technique and could use the terrifying staff technique, would definitely take the initiative to attack. Why should he worry so much? "Nine junior brother, I've just broken through to the Martial King realm and need to continue consolidating my cultivation. I'll take my leave first." After thinking through all this, Chu Zhongyu wanted to retreat and said his goodbyes. "Ninth junior brother, in this batch of resources, there's an elixir pill that can help me break through. I'll take my leave first." Pan Yuhai also said his goodbyes after packing up the cultivation resources that he had snatched. After that, the remaining senior brothers, Wu Jinjun and Gongsun Yiming, also said their goodbyes. Yu Haoran did not ask them to stay and watch them leave one by one. Yuding, I've already taught you the cultivation method. I've also explained in detail the things you need to pay attention to in the process of cultivation. Now, you can cultivate alone for a period of time. After his fellow apprentices left, Yu Haoran instructed Gongsun Yuding, who was putting away 1/3 of the cultivation resources extorted from Gongsun Yiming. Of course, if you encounter anything you don't understand or have any doubts about during your cultivation, you can come and find me directly. For the next few days, I will not leave the Hidden Moon Pavilion for the time being. Yes, Yu Xiao. Although she didn't want to leave Yu Haoran, Gongsun Yuding was very clear. The path of cultivation was very particular. The master could lead the way, but cultivation depended on the individual. If he wanted to attract Yu Haoran's attention and be willing to bring him along when he went out for training, then he had to show enough outstanding cultivation speed to make Yu Haoran feel that he was a person worth nurturing. Therefore, Gongsun Yuding nodded very obediently, then turned and left the Hidden Moon Pavilion. Sitting on the stone bottle in the Wind Pavilion, Yu Haoran asked Thaling in his sea of consciousness, "Thaling, what did you discover just now?" It turned out that when he broke the defensive formation of the treasury and Chu Zhongyu destroyed the treasury, Thaling in his sea of consciousness suddenly exclaimed in surprise. To be able to surprise Thaling, who had seen a lot, it meant that his discovery just now was no small matter. However, the scene at that time made it impossible for him to talk to Thaling in detail. Therefore, he waited until they returned to the Hidden Moon Pavilion and Chu Zhongyu and the others left before he asked, "Yu Haoran, what was the reason for the destruction of the 100 Qi Gate in your previous life?" Instead of answering Yu Haoran's question, Thaling asked his own question. Yu Haoran, who had long been familiar with Thaling's character, knew that his discovery just now was definitely directly or indirectly related to the destruction of the 100 Qi Gate in his previous life. Therefore, he carefully thought about it for a moment, then explained. In his previous life, although there were many reasons for the destruction of the 100 Qi Gate, the most direct reason was that Zhao Ji's illegitimate son, Zhao Xinyu, severely injured one of the 7 top forces, a core disciple of the Xiandao school, for a 5th level 9th rank Yin Yang mysterious Yang fruit in a newly discovered historical site. And that core disciple was the only son of the deputy suzerain of the Xiandao school. Therefore, after the discovery of the historical site, the core disciple of the Xiandao school not only mobilized more than 10 masters of the martial royal realm, but also relied on the prestige of the Xiandao school to directly unite with 2 other second-rate sects, as well as all the affiliated sects of the 100 Qi Gate, except for the Ancient Town sect, to carry out the destruction of the 100 Qi Gate. Yu Haoran, do you believe this reason? After listening to Yu Haoran's explanation, Thaling asked. This, Yu Haoran, who had rich experience in his previous life, of course looked at things differently from before. In the past, he had thought that the reason for the destruction of the 100 Qi Gate was that Zhao Xinyu had offended the core disciple of the Xiandao school. But now it seemed that this reason was a bit far-fetched. After all, in order to become a second-rate sect, it had to have been passed down for at least 1,000 years. A sect like this would more or less have some means to destroy jade and common stone. It was not realistic to mobilize more than 10 masters of the martial royal realm in the sect just because of a conflict in the experiential learning. Yu Haoran, based on my understanding of the 100 Qi Gate, I speculate that there are 2 reasons for the destruction of the 100 Qi Gate. Seeing that Yu Haoran was sober and realized that his understanding was wrong, Thaling began to explain the reason why he had exclaimed just now. The first reason is that the reason why the Xiandao school sent masters to participate in the battle was not to avenge the core disciple, but to seize a celestial device of the 100 Qi Gate in the name of revenge. A celestial device of the highest quality. In the Tianxian continent, a celestial device of at least the venerable realm could be called a celestial device of the highest quality. But with his understanding of the 100 Qi Gate, there is no such thing as a celestial device of the highest quality. Let alone a celestial device of the venerable realm, there was not even a celestial device of the middle grade of the saint realm. There is only an ordinary celestial device of the lower grade of the saint realm. The celestial device of the lower grade of the Saint realm had always been at the senior statesman's peak. This was another main reason why the senior statesman's peak could decide the fate of the 100 Chi gate. Yu Haoran, the celestial device of the highest quality of the Emperor realm, is a celestial device of the highest quality. Its consciousness is temporarily in a dormant state. Fowling nodded and said with a hint of excitement in his voice, "Impossible." After hearing that there was a celestial device of the highest quality of the Emperor realm hidden in the 100 Chi gate, Yu Haoran's first reaction was that it was impossible. This was because a celestial device of the highest quality of the Emperor realm with a complete spirit was equivalent to a peerless expert at the peak of the 9th level of the Emperor Wu. Although the 100 Chi gate could not exert the full power of the celestial device of the highest quality of the celestial device of the highest quality, as long as one was willing to burn a large number of spirit stones, one could still exert a part of the celestial device's power. Even the Xiandao school, one of the top 7 sects, would have to consider this part of the celestial device's power. Don't worry. Before he finished speaking, he was directly interrupted by Yu Haoran. Fowling criticized him unhappily and then continued to explain. Although the spirit of the celestial device of the highest quality of the celestial device of the highest quality of the Emperor realm is in a dormant state, I found that its dormancy method seems to be wrong, because it is not actively dormant. Instead, it seems to have been poisoned by a very special kind of poison, causing it to fall into a dormant state to attract and resist the poison's harm to it. Fowling is the celestial device of the highest quality of the Emperor realm you mentioned in the 100 Chi gate. Because it was poisoned, it had passively fallen into a dormant state and did not reveal half of its aura. Fowling's explanation just now made Yu Haoran reluctantly accept this reality. Chapter 367. In the Wind Pavilion of the Hidden Moon Pavilion. That's right. Not only is that supreme Emperor-level celestial device hidden in the 100 feet peak, but everyone in the 100 Chi gate has seen it. Fowling said with a smile. Everyone in the 100 Chi gate had seen it. Fowling's reminder reminded Yu Haoran of the 100 feet peak, which was shaped like a ruler. His voice trembled as he asked, "Fowling, is the entire 100 feet peak the body of the supreme Emperor-level celestial device?" "Congratulations, you're right." Fowling responded to Yu Haoran's guess and then introduced the origin of the supreme Emperor-level celestial device. Yu Haoran, the supreme Emperor-level celestial device that turned into the 100 feet peak, is called the sky-measuring ruler. Like the cudgel as I wish and the victor, it is a special celestial device that can change its size freely. Speaking of which, I have a certain connection with the sky-measuring ruler, because the owner of the sky-measuring ruler and the expert I used to follow were good friends when we were young. We fought side by side many times. Unfortunately, the owner of the sky-measuring ruler was too kind and trusting. In the end, he was set up and died tragically in an ancient relic. Fowling, how can I awaken the spirit of the sky-measuring ruler? Yu Haoran was not interested in who the owner of the sky-measuring ruler was, what his character was like, or how he died tragically in the end. He just wanted to know how to awaken the tool spirit of the heavenly ruler from its dormant state. Then, he could rely on the friendship between the tool spirit of the heavenly ruler and the tower spirit to gain the tool spirit's recognition and make it his protective magic artifact in the process of his growth. 2 ways. Fowling, who knew Yu Haoran's thoughts, ended his inner sigh, and then gave 2 ways to awaken the spirit of the sky-measuring ruler. The first way is to use the power of my spiritual fowling to awaken the spirit of the sky-measuring ruler. But I've already used my divine sense to check it just now. I've never even heard of a poison that can harm an artifact spirit, much less seen it before. Therefore, even if I forcefully awaken it, the result would only be a mutual sigh. After that, it would immediately enter a dormant state to continue resisting the poison. Moreover, the original owner of the heaven-measuring ruler could be said to be a peerless genius. With your current cultivation and strength, as well as the potential you've revealed, I'm afraid you're still not worthy of his attention. Thaling, what if I can get rid of the poison in the artifact's spirit? Howard didn't despise Thaling for telling the truth, nor did he feel displeased. Now, all he wanted was to gain the approval of the heaven-measuring ruler's spirit. If you can get rid of the poison in the heaven-measuring ruler's weapon spirit, although you may not be able to gain its loyalty, you can promise to guard it for 100 years or even 1,000 years. Thaling, who was familiar with the weapon spirit of the sky-measuring ruler, gave a satisfactory answer to Howard. But then, Thaling's tone changed, and he said with a dignified expression, "However, when I used my divine thoughts to check the heaven-measuring ruler's weapon spirit just now, I found that the poison in it seems to be specially targeted at weapon spirits of celestial devices. Therefore, I can't describe the characteristics and toxicity of that poison to you in detail. A poison that is specially targeted at weapon spirits of celestial devices." Howard muttered to himself as he recalled the various poisons he had encountered in his previous life. But because Thaling provided too little information, the final result was nothing. Therefore, the second way to gain the approval of the heaven-measuring ruler's weapon spirit is to have your cultivation break through the martial grandmaster realm and be able to condense your divine soul. Then, you can personally check the poison and see if you can get rid of the poison in it based on your knowledge of poison in your previous life. Seeing Howard's frown, Thaling knew that he couldn't get rid of the poison in the artifact spirit with his simple introduction just now, so he took the opportunity to tell him the second way. The second way was also the way that Thaling hoped for the most, because only through his awakening and rescue could he finally gain the approval of the heaven-measuring ruler's weapon spirit. Only by truly gaining the approval of the heaven-measuring ruler's weapon spirit could he exert the ruler's heaven-defying auxiliary ability and obtain more power. "I know." Howard nodded and indicated that he knew what to do. In his previous life, with his knowledge of poison cultivation, he dared not say that he could get rid of all the poisons in the world. But as long as he could analyze the specific structure of the poison and the combination of different poisons, he could basically find a way to get rid of it. Getting up and leaving the pavilion, Howard came to an open space in the courtyard and took out an elixir bottle from his storage ring. After opening the elixir bottle, a strong smell of blood was emitted from the bottle. Howard poured a drop of blood essence from the elixir bottle onto his index finger. He closed his eyes and carefully felt the energy in the blood essence. Then he directly swallowed the blood essence between his index finger and his index finger. Immediately after, he put away the elixir bottle and assumed a strange posture. As the blood essence that he swallowed began to take effect, Howard secretly felt that the strange beast that was neither a dragon nor a snake, neither a flood dragon nor a python, was roaring at the sky with its fangs bared and claws brandished. With the help of the vague shape of the strange beast that appeared in the blood essence, Howard moved quickly while clasping his hands together and shouting. Along with the shout, a strange beast that was about 1/2 meter long and had a shape that was 50% similar to a dragon python appeared in midair in the courtyard with the help of elemental energy. Howard, although I have never seen the 7 transformation of the flood dragon, I have seen a real flood dragon. Seeing the strange beast that was 50% similar to a dragon python floating in midair, Thaling, who was sitting cross-legged on top of the victor and healing himself with the help of the jade bed, reminded Lin Huang. When you used the white jade dragon python's blood essence to execute the 7 transformation of the flood dragon, not only did it not have the essence of a flood dragon, it did not even have the basic resemblance. "I know," Howard replied as he waved his hand to disperse the strange beast that he had just transformed into. After that, he closed his eyes and continued to feel the flood dragon bloodline that was contained in the white jade dragon python's blood essence. At the same time, he recalled the flood dragon that he had seen in his previous life. Flood dragon goes to sea. After a deep level of feeling and recollection, Howard executed the first move of the 7 transformation of the flood dragon, goes to sea, a strange beast that was about 3 meters long and had an appearance that was 80% similar to the white jade dragon python, except that there were two small protrusions on its forehead. It roared and appeared in midair in the courtyard. Looking at the strange beast that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws in midair, Thaling, who was in Lin Huang's sea of consciousness, couldn't help but nod and praise him. Not bad. You have made great progress. But soon after, his tone changed, and he continued to criticize Lin Huang. You have barely achieved the resemblance, but you still don't have the slightest resemblance. At this point, Thaling stretched out his finger and pointed. Then, a 1,000-meter-long green flood dragon with an unusually ferocious appearance and two horns on its head appeared in Yu Haoran's sea of consciousness. Yu Haoran, this is a green origin flood dragon that has reached the peak of rank 4, rank 9. It is very suitable for the 7 transformation of the flood dragon that you are cultivating. Use the form of this green origin flood dragon and see if you can master the resemblance after the 7 transformation of the flood dragon. Thaling, thank you. Seeing it with his own eyes was definitely different from recalling it. With the help of the green origin flood dragon that Thaling had transformed into, Yu Haoran discovered that his understanding of the 7 transformation of the flood dragon had deepened. Chapter 368. 100 Qi Peak, in front of the treasure vault. Zhao Ji, who had been in a rather good mood, looked so gloomy as he stared at the treasure vault that had been reduced to a pile of rubble. As for Jiang Minglu, who was standing behind him, he began to tell Zhao Ji everything that had happened. Sectmaster, this is what happened. Yu Haoran, you've gone too far. Although Yu Haoran had destroyed the treasure vault for a reason, the 6th-floor treasure vault had existed for hundreds of years and represented the dignity of the entire 100 Qi Peak, as well as Zhao Ji's face. Yu Haoran's actions were a slap to Zhao Ji's face. How could Zhao Ji not be furious? Sectmaster, before Yu Haoran left, he left you a message. Sensing the murderous aura that was constantly surging and suppressing from Zhao Ji, Jiang Minglu knew that Zhao Ji was on the verge of exploding. Therefore, he carefully told Zhao Ji the threatening words Yu Haoran had left behind before he left. As the saying goes, if the master wants to destroy someone, he must first make them mad. Since Yu Haoran, want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Zhao Ji, who had been surging with murderous intent, instantly lost it when he heard Yu Haoran's threatening words. Even his gloomy expression turned into a cold smile. After that, he instructed Jiang Minglu with a calm expression. Minglu, inform the 13 elders of the Board of Elders and the peak masters of the various factions in the sect. In 15 days, I will convene a faction summit for the 100 Qi Gate. Faction summit. Jiang Minglu was puzzled when he heard that Zhao Ji planned to convene a faction summit. According to the usual practice of the 100 Qi Gate, the faction summit was held once every 3 years. Firstly, it was to summarize the achievements and shortcomings of each faction in the past 3 years. Secondly, it was to formulate a development plan for the next 3 years. Thirdly, it was to discuss the distribution of benefits. The most recent Peak Master Summit was held less than a year ago. What was the reason for holding another Peak Master Summit? Therefore, Jiang Minglu asked carefully, Sectmaster, may I know the reason for the faction summit this time? Keep it a secret. Turning his head to look in the direction of Clear Cloud Peak, Zhao Ji pointed at the ruins of the treasury and continued to instruct. This is where the faction summit will be held. Sect leader, what are you trying to do? Zhao Ji's actions caused Jiang Minglu to have a bad premonition. He did not reveal the reason for the faction summit and chose to hold it in front of the ruins of the treasury. He felt that Zhao Ji's sudden action at the faction summit this time was not only related to Yu Haoran of Clear Cloud Peak, but also very likely related to the fate of 100 Feet Peak. Therefore, Jiang Minglu put away his cautious attitude and questioned directly. There's no need to ask. You just have to do what you're supposed to do. Glancing coldly at Jiang Minglu, Zhao Ji turned and left the ruins of the treasury, then went straight to the courtyard on the peak. Seeing Zhao Ji turn and leave, Jiang Minglu's eyes revealed a trace of worry. He was worried that this faction summit might cause the entire sect to undergo earth-shattering changes. Whether these earth-shattering changes would be a blessing or a curse for 100 Feet Peak, he could only wait until the day of the faction summit to find out. However, he understood Zhao Ji's character and knew that since he had already made up his mind, it was impossible to change his mind. Therefore, Jiang Minglu could only sigh heavily and go make arrangements for the faction summit in half a month's time. In the courtyard of Hidden Moon Pavilion, Flood Dragon goes to sea. After careful observation, Yu Haoran swallowed a drop of white jade dragon python's essence blood, then once again used the first transformation of the Flood Dragon's 7 transformations. Flood Dragon goes to sea. Accompanied by a violent roar, a flood dragon that was dozens of meters long and had a shape that was 80% similar to the green source flood dragon appeared in the air above Hidden Moon Pavilion. The flood dragon that appeared in the air above Hidden Moon Pavilion first flew into the air and roared at the bright moon in the sky, then lowered its head and charged towards Yu Haoran. But when it was less than 10 centimeters away from Yu Haoran, the flood dragon that was dozens of meters long suddenly stopped. Its huge head gently pressed against Yu Haoran's raised left hand. Fouling, can I use the 7 transformations of the flood dragon to realize my idea of flying? Feeling that the flood dragon that he had created using the 7 transformations of the flood dragon was in between an illusion and a physical body, Yu Haoran suddenly had an idea. Yes, but it will consume a lot of your yuan power. Fouling nodded and gave an affirmative answer. He took out a few top-notch elixirs that could quickly recover his yuan power from his storage ring and put them in his mouth in advance. Then, he jumped lightly onto the flood dragon's back. Following that, he sent a signal to the flood dragon that was in between an illusion and a physical body. Then, the green flood dragon that was dozens of meters long directly soared into the air. Although the 7 transformations of the flood dragon allowed him to regain the ability to fly in the martial master realm, Yu Haoran's face didn't look too happy. This was because using origin energy and martial skills to transform into an azure flood dragon to fly, the consumption of origin energy had already reached a terrifying level. In just a short minute, nearly 70% of his yuan power, which was 100 times more than an ordinary warrior's, had been used up. It was no wonder that although there were many people who cultivated the 7 transformations of the flood dragon, and there were many who could grasp the essence of the martial technique, no one had ever been able to use the flood dragon to realize their dream of flying in advance. Given the amount of yuan power stored in those people's dantian, the moment the flood dragon rose into the air, the yuan power in their dantian would have been depleted. Controlling the flood dragon to land in the courtyard again, Yu Haoran gently jumped to the ground and waved his hand to disperse the green flood dragon. Yu Haoran, the person who created the 7 transformations of the flood dragon, is definitely a demon-level genius, because he not only grasped all the advantages of the flood dragon, but also saw through the advantages of the transformation of the body structure of different creatures. The pagoda spirit in Yu Haoran's sea of consciousness praised after he recovered his origin energy with the help of the pill he had just swallowed. It's a pity that the genius who created the 7 transformations of the flood dragon has never seen a real divine dragon. Otherwise, he would definitely have created the 7 transformations of the flood dragon. If you can master the 7 transformations of the flood dragon now, you will have the ability to challenge the martial ancestor realm. Fouling, you have to take one step at a time and eat one bite at a time. Even now, I have only grasped less than 50% of the essence of the first move of the 7 transformations of the flood dragon. In the face of Fouling's praise and regret, Yu Haoran didn't think too much about it. He was even glad that he had created the 7 transformations of the flood dragon. Otherwise, with his current cultivation and knowledge, he wouldn't have been able to cultivate the so-called 7 transformations of the flood dragon. Chapter 369, Qingyan Peak, Hidden Moon Pavilion. Yu Haoran, according to my calculations, there's less than an hour left before the appointed time you gave to sect leader Zhao Ji. Seeing Yu Haoran sitting cross-legged, recovering the yuan li he had used to transform into a flying flood dragon, while continuing to comprehend the sea dragon, Thowling chose to shut up for the time being and immerse himself in the healing of his divine soul. However, when he inadvertently saw that the rising sun had already hung on the branches, he instantly recalled the words Yu Haoran had left behind to threaten Zhao Ji before he left 100-Foot Peak yesterday, and he hurriedly asked. Because Yu Haoran now had the blood essence of a 5th-rank monkey-type exotic beast, he could fully display the sky-facing staff technique. However, in the face of the ultimate Emperor-level heaven-measuring ruler, the sky-facing staff technique might not be able to harm the 100-Feet Peak. Therefore, Thowling wanted to know what Yu Haoran planned to do if Zhao Ji ignored his threat. If Zhao Ji doesn't show me enough sincerity, then after the appointed time, I'll immediately enter the depths of the mountain range and find a high-grade monkey-type exotic beast. I'll find a way to extract its blood essence and then completely seal the 100-Feet Peak. Without opening his eyes, Yu Haoran replied coldly, "Seal the peak." Hearing Yu Haoran's final plan, Thowling's eyes lit up. He was very satisfied with his reaction and means. "Nine Junior Brother, are you there?" Just as Yu Haoran was immersed in comprehending the sky-facing sea dragon, Chu Zhongyu's voice suddenly came from outside the courtyard. "Come in, eldest senior brother." Yu Haoran replied as he stood up and walked towards the pavilion. "Nine Junior Brother, something's wrong." When he saw Yu Haoran standing in the pavilion, Chu Zhongyu rushed into the pavilion in 2 or 3 steps and said with an anxious expression, "Eldest senior brother, calm down." Motioning for Chu Zhongyu to calm down, Yu Haoran asked, "Eldest senior brother, what exactly happened to make you, a martial king expert, so flustered?" "I just received a notice from the 100-Feet Peak. Half a month later, Zhao Ji is going to hold a faction summit in front of the ruins of the 100-Feet Peak's treasury," Chu Zhongyu quickly explained. Yu Haoran could not help but frown when he heard that Zhao Ji was planning to hold a faction summit in front of the ruins of the treasury in half a month. Then, he left the pavilion and walked around the courtyard while thinking about why Zhao Ji did this. Yu Haoran might not have thought too much about it if it was just holding the faction summit in advance. However, the location of the faction summit was in front of the ruins of the treasury. Zhao Ji's intention could not be more obvious. He was targeting Qingyan Peak, or more accurately, targeting Yu Haoran. However, with the intensity of the battle between the factions of the 100-Chi Gate and the strength and influence of the 100-Chi Peak, it was impossible for Zhao Ji to do anything to him by relying on his accusations and coercion at the faction summit. So, what was his reason for doing this? Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion, a magic weapon that restricted the use of secret transformations. Zhao Sinyu's mother was the deputy pavilion master of Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion. Zhao Ji suddenly left the 100-Chi Gate. Combined with the events of the past 2 days, Yu Haoran gradually guessed Zhao Ji's true intentions. If Zhao Ji was really as he guessed, then not only would the 100-Chi Gate change, but for Qingyan Peak, it could also be a true opportunity for them to rise. "Eldest senior brother, I already know what happened, and I can basically guess the real reason why Zhao Ji did this." Returning to the pavilion, Yu Haoran explained to Chu Zhongyu. "However, Master is now at a critical juncture of breaking through and can't leave for the time being. So, I'll go with you to the faction summit in half a month." Perhaps because of Yu Haoran's confidence, Chu Zhongyu, who was originally a little panicked, quickly calmed down. "There's no problem for us to go together." Chu Zhongyu had no objections to Yu Haoran's suggestion, but he also had his own concerns, and that was the problem of identity. This was because according to the rules of the 100-Chi Gate, those who participated in the faction summit had to be a peak master. Otherwise, they wouldn't even have the qualifications to participate, let alone enter the venue. After hearing Chu Zhongyu's concerns, Yu Haoran sneered. "Eldest senior brother, from today onwards, you have to remember one thing. Identity and status are illusory. Only the fist is real. If anyone dares to question our qualifications to participate, then beat them until they acknowledge our identities. If anyone dares to stop us from entering the venue, then kick them out. Now it seems that this is the only way for the time being." Although Yu Haoran's domineering behavior made Chu Zhongyu's blood boil, as the chief disciple of Qingyan Peak, He had to consider all aspects. Therefore, while he agreed with Yu Haoran's domineering approach, he was also considering how to resolve the conflict between Qingyun Peak and the other factions. Ninth junior brother, don't casually leave Qingyun Peak during this period of time, lest you delay the faction summit in half a month, Chu Zhongyu reminded him before leaving the Hidden Moon Pavilion. Eldest senior brother, I'll go into the depths of the mountain range to train. Since he had already guessed Zhao Ji's conspiracy, how could he not prepare some methods in advance? Therefore, when faced with Chu Zhongyu's reminder, Yu Haoran shook his head and made a promise. However, eldest senior brother can rest assured that I will definitely return to Qingyun Peak before the faction summit begins. Okay, be careful. Chu Zhongyu was only going to train in the depths of the mountain range and could return to Qingyun Peak at any time, so he didn't reject Yu Haoran's request. Then, he turned and left the Hidden Moon Pavilion. Yu Haoran, what is the purpose of Zhao Ji suddenly calling for the faction summit? Faling had experienced many eras. Although he was experienced and knowledgeable, it was difficult for him to guess the reason why Zhao Ji called for the faction summit in advance without understanding the power structure of the sect and the complexity of human nature. Faction Deathmatch. After leaving these words, Yu Haoran stepped out of the Hidden Moon Pavilion and went straight to Gongsun Yuding's Tingxi Pavilion. Deep in the mountain range, Yu Haoran looked solemnly at a black rat that was about 30 centimeters tall and 50 centimeters long. It had a tail that was more than 10 meters long. 2 days ago, after helping Gongsun Yuding explain the doubts she encountered in the process of cultivation and telling Wu Xinjun to cultivate alone, Yu Haoran went into the depths of the mountain range alone. He had 3 main goals for this training. The first goal was to further adapt and familiarize himself with his strength after breaking through life and death battles with exotic beasts, so that he could complete the accumulation of his cultivation in the shortest time possible and continue to raise his cultivation and strength. The second goal was to find a rank 5 monkey-type exotic beast and think of a way to steal its essence blood, so that he could use the essence blood of the monkey-type exotic beast to execute the secret transformation technique to deal with the faction summit in half a month. Chapter 370. In the depths of the mountain range. It was different from a breakthrough in cultivation. It required the comprehension of one's realm, the corresponding mental state cultivation, and a certain amount of accumulation before the breakthrough. As for the breakthrough of the physical body's grade, it was very simple. As long as one's physical body was strong enough to withstand the impact of the force, as well as sufficient energy to break through the grade, one could continue to break through the grade. According to Thaling's investigation with his divine sense, Yu Haoran knew that his physical body at the early 6th grade martial master level hadn't truly reached the limit of the breakthrough. He could still continue to use external assistance to raise the grade and strength of his physical body. As such, he planned to do his best to raise the grade of his physical body while consolidating his cultivation. Now, 2 days had passed. He had already achieved his first goal of entering the depths of the mountain range. That was to rely on 16 8th grade, 7th grade, and 9th grade beasts to engage in a life and death battle. He had fully adapted and familiarized himself with his strength after breaking through. Next, he only needed to consolidate his strength for a period of time, and he would be able to continue breaking through to the mid-5th grade martial master level. However, there was still no news of his second goal. Although there were many monkey-type beasts in the depths of the mountain range, and there were even monkey-type beasts with the bloodlines of kings and emperors, there weren't many monkey-type beasts that could truly reach 7th grade and above, let alone 6th grade and 5th grade monkey-type beasts. As such, Yu Haoran could only choose to enter the depths of the mountain range. As for his third goal, he was suddenly interrupted just as he was about to complete it. The one who interrupted him while he was collecting the butterfly spider flowers was this ordinary-looking, yet extremely dangerous rat-type beast in front of him. Thaling, do you know the true origin of this black rat? Yu Haoran didn't dare to say that he knew all the exotic beasts in the world after 100 years of adventuring in his previous life. However, he knew about 80 to 90% of the ordinary exotic beasts. However, this strange exotic beast in front of him didn't look much different from an ordinary rodent, but it had an extremely tough defense, a tail with terrifying offensive power, and a speed as fast as lightning. It was a strange exotic beast that he had never seen or heard of before. Howren, I don't know the exact origin of this black rat either. In fact, when the tail of the black rat had almost injured Howren, Thowling had already begun to search for its origin. Just like Howren, he had never seen or heard of such a strange exotic beast that seemed to have no weaknesses. Creak, creak. After being hit by Howren's light wind palm, the black rat's internal organs were almost frostbitten by the cold air. Although it returned to normal in a very short time, the uncomfortable feeling made it very angry. It couldn't help but squeak at Howren. I don't mean anything else. When the black rat squeaked, its tiny eyes revealed a very human-like look of anger. Howren suspected that it might have a very high intelligence, so he tried to communicate with it. After all, through the exchange just now, Howren knew that neither of them could do anything to the other. However, he also wanted the butterfly spider flower on the back of the black rat. Thus, he decided to use this method of communication to see if he could achieve his goal through a transaction. Brother Black Rat, I don't have any ill intentions. I only want to collect the butterfly spider flower on your back and use it to concoct pills that can increase the grade of your physical body. Howren explained, pointing at the beautiful butterfly-like flower on the black rat's back. Of course, if the butterfly spider flower is Brother Black Rat's guardian spiritual herb, then I won't use it for free. I'll give you a third of the pills that can increase the grade of your physical body. After all, the butterfly spider flower is only a ninth of the ingredients needed to concoct pills. After hearing Howren's explanation and suggestion, the hostility in the black rat's eyes gradually disappeared. At the same time, its two beady black eyes rolled back and forth. It didn't take long, only about 10 seconds. The black tail that was originally over 10 meters long quickly shrunk, returning to its normal length in the end. Then, the black rat turned around and scurried to the side of the butterfly spider flower. It stretched out its two small claws and forcefully pulled out the butterfly spider flower. Then, it handed it to Howren. Seeing the black rat's actions, Howren couldn't help but feel joy in his heart. As he reached out to take the butterfly spider flower, he took out a few pills from his storage ring that could also increase the grade of his physical body. However, they weren't suitable for him. Brother Black Rat, because I haven't completed my goal of entering the depths of the mountain range, I can't use the butterfly spider flower to concoct pills for the time being. So, these pills can be considered a little compensation. When I return to the sect and finish concocting the pills, I'll definitely personally deliver them to Brother Black Rat. Faced with the pills that Howren handed over, the black rat first used its nose to sniff them. Then, its small eyes emitted a trace of light. Then, with the speed of lightning, it directly swallowed a few pills into its stomach. After swallowing the pills, the black rat's body shrank rapidly. Soon, it had shrunk to the size of an apple. Then, it gently jumped directly onto Howren's shoulder. Then, it closed its eyes and began to refine the pills that it had just swallowed. Seeing the black rat crawling directly on his shoulder, Howren suddenly felt very speechless. Howren, according to my experience, this black rat's origin is probably extraordinary. Why don't you keep it first, then use the pills to cultivate a relationship with it? Take the opportunity to understand its origin. Thowling was also confused by the black rat's actions. However, the experienced Thowling thought deeper, so he reminded him. Just as Thowling's reminder, the black rat that was crawling on Howren's shoulder suddenly stood up and stared closely at Howren's forehead. A trace of vigilance and doubt flashed in its eyes. Oh my God, this black rat is too terrifying. It can actually detect my existence. The black rat's vigilant behavior directly frightened Thowling in the sea of consciousness. Then, it used the means of divine thought to communicate with Howren. However, just as Thaling's voice ended, the black rat that had quieted down became vigilant again. "Brother Black Rat, don't be nervous. The divine soul of an elder lives in my sea of consciousness. You don't have to worry about his existence." No matter if it was a direct communication or a divine thought, the black rat could detect it. Howard was also stunned by the black rat's ability. Therefore, he planned to listen to Thaling's suggestion. First, he would use the pills to tempt the black rat and make it rely on him. Then, he would investigate its true origin, how to make it rely on him. In addition to the temptation of the pills, they also needed to trust each other. Therefore, it was the first time Howard talked to someone else. No, it was the first time he revealed the existence of Thaling to an exotic beast. After hearing Howard's explanation, the black rat that was still vigilant closed its small eyes directly and then crawled on his shoulder to sleep. It was not interested in the old man that Howard mentioned just now. Seeing the black rat that was not interested in him at all, Thaling was suddenly depressed and did not know what to say. Chapter 371. Hunter Chi Gate, Enforcer Peak. Gao Wanping, who was sitting at the head of the meeting hall, gently tapped the armrest with his left hand. He smiled as he looked at the beautiful woman standing in the middle of the hall. Although she was already in her 40s, she still retained her charm. "Peak Lord, what do you think? Do you agree to my cousin's conditions?" Looking at Gao Wanping, who had a smile on his face but didn't say a word, the beautiful woman asked in a coquettish and seductive manner. "Zhao Ying, your charm technique may be fatal to other men, but to me, it has no effect at all. Instead, it makes me feel disgusted. So, don't waste your time and effort with me. Just put away your charm technique." Facing the coquettish and seductive beauty, Gao Wanping, who had been silent, suddenly withdrew the smile on his face and spoke in a cold tone. The originally delicate Zhao Ying's temperament instantly turned cold. She, who was like an ice beauty, looked at Gao Wanping with an indifferent expression and asked in a frosty tone, "Peak Lord, I wonder if you agree to the conditions proposed by Sect Master Zhao? Zhao Ying, go back and tell Zhao Ji that I've accepted his gift. I'll send someone to send Zhao Xinyu back to Hunter Chi Peak in a while." Gao Wanping stood up from the head of the table and said indifferently, "As for the grudge between him and Howard, I, Gao Wanping, still have the same attitude as before. That is, I don't care, I'm impartial, and I'll continue to maintain a neutral attitude." Hearing Gao Wanping's answer, Zhao Ying, whose temperament was like an iceberg, coldly mocked, "Peak Lord, people shouldn't be too greedy. A mere trash like illegitimate child is not worth Sect Master Zhao taking out so many precious treasures. In that case, you can take away the treasures now. Zhao Xinyu can continue to stay at my Enforcer Peak as a guest." Facing Zhao Ying's mockery, Gao Wanping wasn't angry. Instead, he chuckled and threw the storage bag in his hand to Zhao Ying. "Gao Wanping, my cousin is now completely different from before. The true hidden strength of 100 Feet Peak is completely beyond your imagination. When the time comes, don't regret your choice today." Zhao Ying threatened with a cold smile as she reached out to catch the storage bag that Gao Wanping threw over. I, Gao Wanping, am afraid of everything except threats. I will wait for Zhao Ji's revenge." In the face of Zhao Ying's threat, Gao Wanping maintained a smile on his face, but the tone of his reply was not polite. "Deputy Peak Master Zhao, I won't be seeing you off." Zhao Ying glanced at Gao Wanping with murderous eyes, then turned and left the Law Enforcement Peak's meeting hall. Just after Zhao Ying left the conference hall, the smile on Gao Wanping's face was instantly replaced by gloominess. "Zhao Lei." Then, he shouted at Gao Wanping outside the meeting hall. "Zhao Lei greets the Peak Master." Zhao Lei, who had been waiting outside the meeting hall for a long time, quickly entered the meeting hall when he heard Gao Wanping's call. "Judgment failed. You know what to do now." Seeing Zhao Lei standing in the middle of the hall with a respectful expression, Gao Wanping's gloomy face eased a lot, but his tone was filled with murderous intent. "Peak Master, don't worry. I will let Zhao Xinyu taste all the torture methods of our law enforcement peak. I will let him know what it means to wish for death. Hearing the suppressed anger in the peak master's tone, Zhao Lei, who was also furious, said with a sinister expression, "As long as he doesn't die, you can do whatever you want." Nodding his head in satisfaction, Gao Wanping indicated that Zhao Lei could leave. After Zhao Lei left the meeting hall, Gao Wanping returned to his seat of honor. His left hand tapped lightly on the armrest as he carefully considered Zhao Ying's words before she left. Deep in the mountain range, Tower Spirit, you still haven't discovered anything. Since the first and third objectives had been achieved, Yu Haoran began to search for monkey-type beasts that were rank 6 and above with all his might. However, the end result was nothing. Helpless, he could only seek help from Thaling, hoping to use his divine sense to help him lock onto a suitable monkey-type beast to steal the blood essence. However, he didn't know what had happened in the depths of the mountain range. Not only did he not discover any monkey-type beasts above rank 6, he didn't even discover any traces of other types of beasts above rank 6. This made Yu Haoran gradually feel that something might have happened in the depths of the mountain range. As such, he started using his movement technique to constantly change his position, making it easier for Thaling to inspect every inch of the mountain range in greater detail. "Nothing," Thaling replied, shaking his head. After hearing Thaling's reply, Yu Haoran said with a frown, "Thaling, it seems like something isn't right. According to your current condition of recovery, you should be able to cover half of the mountain range with your divine sense at its limit. No matter how well those beasts above rank 6 hide, they won't be able to escape from your divine sense." "Yu Haoran, what do you mean?" Although Thaling already had his suspicions, he still wanted to hear Yu Haoran's conjecture. "According to my many adventures in my previous life, I feel that there's either a mysterious secret realm in the depths of the mountain range, or an independent space that can avoid detection from divine sense." Hearing Yu Haoran's conjecture, which was exactly as he had guessed, Thaling nodded in reply, his tone complaining a little dejectedly. "Yu Haoran, the entire mountain range is too big. Whether it's a secret realm or an independent space, with my current divine sense, I won't be able to find it in a short amount of time." Yu Haoran agreed with Thaling's dejected complaint. "That's right. Regardless of whether it's a secret realm or an independent space, the entrance to a place that can satisfy the entry of all rank 6 beasts at the same time is probably well hidden. Even if you had 10 days and nights, you wouldn't be able to find it. And what we lack the most right now is time." Thinking about how the faction summit would be held 7 days later, Yu Haoran couldn't help but sigh. Just as Yu Haoran was sighing about the possibility of him not being able to obtain the blood essence of the monkey-type beasts and not having enough confidence to participate in the faction summit, the black rat that had been sleeping soundly on his shoulder suddenly stood up and squeaked twice. Afterwards, it directly jumped off Yu Haoran's shoulder. As its body gradually grew larger, it ran deeper into the mountain range. "Yu Haoran, chase after it." The black rat's unexpected actions made the experienced Thaling immediately think of a possibility, and he hurriedly reminded Zhang Che loudly. Actually, even without Thaling's intentional reminder, Yu Haoran could also guess the reason for the black rat's unexpected actions. As such, Yu Haoran didn't hesitate at all. He directly used his peak speed to quickly catch up to the black rat that had set off ahead of time. Under its lead, they finally arrived at the edge of a cliff. The black rat didn't give Haoran any time to observe the situation. It didn't stop running when it reached the edge of the cliff and plunged headfirst into the cliff. Without any hesitation, Yu Haoran chose to believe that the black rat wouldn't harm him, and similarly plunged headfirst into the cliff. Gravity added to the gravitational pull, causing Yu Haoran, who was rapidly descending, to instantly feel an uncontrollable sense of weightlessness. And this uncontrollable feeling of weightlessness caused him to panic incomparably. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and quickly calmed down. He then used the 7 forms of the flood dragon, using his Yuan Li to form a 2-meter-long flood dragon. Chapter 372. In the depths of the mountain range, on a cliff, Although he had used his elemental energy to transform into a dragon that was about 2 meters long, using it to fly still consumed a lot of elemental energy in his dantian. Therefore, as he stepped on the dragon and got rid of the feeling of weightlessness, Yuhauran took out a few top-notch elixirs that could quickly restore his elemental energy and 2 5th-level, first-grade spirit stones from his storage ring. With the help of the top-notch elixirs and high-quality spirit stones, he quickly replenished his elemental energy. As he continued to use the dragon to fly, Yuhauran gradually found a flying technique that could ensure stability and speed while minimizing the consumption of elemental energy. Yuhauran was not sure how deep the cliff in the depths of the mountain range was, but from the speed and time of descent, he felt that he had descended at least tens of thousands of meters. He waited until he heard the squeaking of the black rat and vaguely looked at the ground below before he dispersed the dragon that was transformed from elemental energy. Then, he used the support of elemental energy to slowly land on the ground. Stomping hard on the ground, Yuhauran realized that the ground under his feet was very soft. Then, he looked up and was shocked to find that he had come to a dense primitive forest. Every tree in the primitive forest was dozens of times taller than the trees in the mountain range. Even an ordinary weed was almost as tall as him. He used the Great Mystery Heart Sutra to absorb a trace of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the primitive forest. Then, he was shocked to find that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the primitive forest was not only very rich, but also very pure. It was not inferior to the spiritual fog that he had found in the upper 5th-level spirit vein in the Blue Moon Secret Realm. Thaling, does this primitive forest suppress your telepathic thoughts? No matter how strange the environment in front of him was, Yuhauran's first reaction was to be concerned about Thaling. After all, Thaling's powerful telepathic thoughts were not only a tool to find treasures, but also a guarantee to avoid danger in advance. This primitive forest does not have any restrictions on my telepathic thoughts. With Yuhauran as the base, Thaling began to spread out his telepathic thoughts without any restrictions. Therefore, while answering Yuhauran's questions, he began to use his divine telekinesis to check the situation of the primeval forest. Through the expansion of his divine sense, Thaling discovered that the area of this primeval forest was not large. His divine sense had only expanded less than 1/5 of its area, and he had already reached the edge of the forest. It was precisely because the primeval forest wasn't large that he quickly discovered the traces of those tier 6 and above exotic beasts. Dozens of rank 6 and above exotic beasts were scattered around a spring. All of them were staring at a floating dark blue rock on the surface of the spring. As for the dark blue stone that didn't sink in the water, it was a type of stone that he had never seen before. Thaling looked at Yuhauran expectantly, hoping that Yuhauran would be able to recognize the origin of the dark blue stone. If it doesn't sink in water, I wonder if it can withstand fire. After hearing Thaling's detailed description, a trace of a familiar memory surfaced in Zhang Che's mind. However, whether the dark blue stone Thaling mentioned was a treasure recorded in a certain ancient record in his previous life or not, he still needed to see it with his own eyes and test it out for himself. Even if he couldn't obtain the tier 5 monkey-type exotic beast blood essence this time, even if he suffered a loss during the faction summit, it would all be worth it. Gigi. After Yuhauran landed on the ground of the primeval forest, he had been waiting for Thaling to use his divine sense to check the situation of the primeval forest. He didn't pursue the black rat immediately. As such, the black rat, who had already entered the depths of the primeval forest, suddenly turned back when it couldn't sense Yuhauran's aura. Furthermore, it used its squeaks to remind Zhang Che to quickly follow it. After reminding Thaling to use his divine sense to be vigilant of his surroundings, Yuhauran used his footwork martial technique and followed the black rat closely. Less than 1,000 meters into the primeval forest, Yuhauran had no choice but to stop. Of course, he didn't stop because he encountered any trouble, but because he suddenly discovered a ginseng emitting a faint purple glow in the middle of a pile of weeds not far away. Ginseng could only be considered a very ordinary medicinal herb in the Tianshan continent, where spiritual qi was abundant. Although it couldn't be said to be found everywhere, there would be quite a number of ginseng in forests and grasslands that were slightly more abundant in spiritual qi. It was precisely because there were so many of them and they could be found everywhere that the value of ginseng wasn't high. However, there was a limit to everything. If it was a ginseng below 1,000 years old, it could only be used as an ordinary medicinal herb. However, if it was over 1,000 years old, it could officially become a Tier 10 Tier 1 spiritual herb and was considered a more valuable spiritual herb. If it was over 10,000 years old, it wouldn't be an ordinary spiritual herb, but a top-notch spiritual herb. It was also a spiritual herb that cultivators loved to consume directly to raise their cultivation and strength. If it was over 100,000 years old, its value would be heaven-defying, and the ginseng itself would gain sentience, officially stepping into the ranks of cultivation. As for the ginseng emitting a faint purple glow in the weeds, it had just reached 10 years old and was in the process of gaining sentience. Although collecting the ginseng at this moment would interrupt the ginseng's opportunity to unlock its consciousness, in order to increase his cultivation base and strength, Yu Haoran could only be ruthless. He captured the ginseng that was emitting a faint purple light and put it into his storage ring. In the following half an hour, Yu Haoran discovered a few more spiritual herbs of ordinary quality, but they were all tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years old. This made him happy, and he couldn't help but wonder if this primeval forest had never been discovered by anyone. Otherwise, how could these ordinary medicinal herbs grow to tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years old? Squeak, squeak. Just as Yu Haoran put away a 70,000-year-old Lingji mushroom that was about to be promoted to Tier 6, the black mouse that had been leading the way suddenly reminded him. After listening carefully for a while, Yu Haoran could vaguely hear the sound of flowing water and immediately knew that the spring that Thaling mentioned was not far away. Considering that there were dozens of powerful beasts of the 6th step and above gathered around the spring, Yu Haoran did not take the risk to continue going deeper. He waved his hand and called the black mouse to his shoulder. Then he chose a relatively hidden spot at the top of a big tree and hid for the time being. Of course, hiding for the time being did not mean that Yu Haoran did not pay attention to what was happening in the spring. On one hand, he used the dense and pure spiritual energy in the primeval forest to increase his cultivation, so that he could continue to increase his cultivation after the end of the faction summit. On the other hand, he had Thaling use his spiritual sense to help him pay attention to the situation around the spring. After hearing Thaling say that on a small hill to the left of the spring, there was a large power King Kong ape that had reached the peak of the 7th rank of the 5th step, Yu Haoran could not help but heave a sigh of relief. After using the blood essence of the King Kong monkey and the large power King Kong ape, Yu Haoran discovered that the blood essence of the large power King Kong ape was more suitable for using the sky smashing rod. Heaving a sigh of relief was one thing, but how to obtain the blood essence of a large power King Kong ape that had reached the 4th rank of the 5th step was also a rather troublesome matter. Fortunately, according to the situation at the scene, Yu Haoran knew that these beasts were definitely waiting for something. However, no matter what they were waiting for, they would definitely clash because of what they were waiting for. Chapter 373. In the primordial forest, time ticked by, but there were no changes to the stream in the forest. As for the strange beasts that were waiting for changes to appear, there were no conflicts between them, and none of the strange beasts became violent or impatient because of a long wait. It was as if all the strange beasts had suddenly become very docile, which made Thaling, who had been observing with his spiritual sense, very confused. Half an hour later, as the dark blue stone floating in the stream shook slightly, a pure white lotus flower began to sprout like bamboo shoots after the rain. The strange beasts that were waiting calmly in the surroundings suddenly became nervous. Although they were nervous, these strange beasts did not take any risky actions and only stared at the rapidly growing white lotus flower. How is this possible? Thowling, who had been observing the stream with his spiritual sense, could not help but cry out when he saw the white lotus flower suddenly sprout on the dark blue stone. Just as Thowling lost his voice, the black rat that had been crawling on Yu Haoran's shoulder also stood up. A white light shot out of its small eyes, and the white light seemed to be able to penetrate the obstacles of the tall trees in front of it and see the white lotus flower on the dark blue stone in the stream. Thowling, what happened? Yu Haoran hurriedly stopped absorbing spiritual energy and asked, Yu Haoran, if there was a heaven-defying opportunity in front of you right now, I wonder if you would be willing to take the risk and fight for it. Instead of answering Yu Haoran's question, Thowling provoked him. Thowling, whether or not you are willing to take the risk and how much risk you are willing to take depends on the value of the target and the degree of danger. Yu Haoran did not immediately agree because of the heaven-defying opportunity that Thowling mentioned. He maintained his calm and replied, At this very moment, on the dark blue stone in the stream, not only has a pure white lotus flower appeared, but the white lotus flower has already grown 3 petals. More importantly, according to its current growth rate, I'm afraid that it will eventually have more than 3 petals. A pure white lotus might have more than 3 petals. Yu Haoran couldn't help but gasp when he heard Thowling talking about the changes that were happening in the spring. His voice trembled with excitement as he asked, Thowling, could it be that the white lotus growing on the blue rock in the spring water is the legendary immortal lotus? The immortal lotus was a very special spirit herb. Although there was the word immortal in its name, it didn't mean that it was an immortal medicine. Instead, it was because of the various heaven-defying effects it possessed. Immortal lotuses took an extremely long time to be nurtured. The shortest period was a few thousand years, while the longest period was a few million years. The length of time an immortal lotus took to grow was related to the number of petals it eventually bloomed. If there was only 1 petal, then it would only take about 1,000 years to grow. If there were 9 petals, then it would take at least 1,000,000 years to grow. Regardless of whether it was 1,000 years old or 1,000,000 years old, the fact that it needed such a long time to nurture was enough to show how precious the immortal lotus was and how powerful its effects were. The immortal lotus had 2 heaven-defying effects. The first heaven-defying effect was that after the immortal lotus had completely matured, a drop of immortal liquid would condense in its petals. The immortal liquid could break through the bottleneck of the horizon realm and allow a cultivator to directly advance to the next realm without any side effects. For example, even if your cultivation was only at the 1st grade of Martial Master, after consuming the immortal liquid, your cultivation would not only directly break through to the 1st grade of Martial Ancestor, but the immortal liquid would also help you condense the most suitable soul for you. If your cultivation was at the 1st grade of Martial King, after consuming the immortal liquid, your cultivation would directly advance to the 1st grade of Martial Saint. The immortal liquid would also help you comprehend the power of law that was most suitable for you. The immortal liquid's heaven-defying effects were not only useful for human cultivators, but also for exotic beasts. Of course, the specific realm that the immortal liquid could help to advance to would depend on the number of petals that the immortal lotus could ultimately bloom. If the immortal lotus only bloomed 1 petal, then the immortal liquid condensed from the petal could only be used for ordinary humans or ordinary beasts. If the immortal lotus bloomed 9 petals, then the immortal liquid condensed from the 9 petals could help an expert of the Emperor Wu's realm directly break through to the martial god realm. This was the first heaven-defying effect of the immortal lotus, and the real reason why all the exotic beasts of the 6th grade and above in the depths of the mountain range gathered here. The second heaven-defying effect of the immortal lotus was that the petals of the immortal lotus could be directly refined into the best defensive magic weapon. The grade of the defensive magic weapon was also related to the number of petals that the immortal lotus bloomed at the end. The more petals bloomed, the higher the grade of the defensive magic weapon, and the stronger its power. That's right, it's the legendary immortal lotus. While replying to Yu Howren's excited questions, Thaling continued to explain the growth process of the immortal lotus. However, it's already a 4th-grade immortal lotus, and the growth rate of the immortal lotus still shows no signs of slowing down. It seems that the 5th grade is not its limit. The immortal liquid condensed from the petals of a 5th-grade immortal lotus could help a martial ancestor realm cultivator directly break through to the martial king realm. Huff, taking a deep breath and suppressing the excitement in his heart, Yu Howren continued to ask, Thaling, let's not care about how many petals the immortal lotus can bloom at the end for now. Help me take a look at the blue stone where the immortal lotus is growing. Is its color getting lighter and lighter, closer and closer to the color of our human skin? That's right. Although he didn't understand why Yu Howren didn't pay attention to the more precious immortal lotus, and instead paid attention to the useless dark blue stone, Thaling, who understood and was familiar with Yu Howren's character, knew that he must know the origin of the dark blue stone. Moreover, the dark blue stone might be even more precious than the immortal lotus. Therefore, Thaling directly explained the current state of the dark blue stone. After receiving Thaling's confirmation, Yu Howren continued to take deep breaths and continued to force himself to calm down. Then, his brain started to work quickly, thinking about how to obtain the immortal lotus and the dark blue stone from the dozens of exotic beasts of the 6th grade and above. Thaling, the plan to obtain the immortal lotus is divided into 3 steps. After careful consideration, Yu Howren came up with a plan to fight for the immortal lotus in the shortest amount of time possible. Speak. Regarding the final ownership of the legendary immortal lotus, Thaling immediately raised his attention to listen. The first step is that we won't make a move for the time being. Let the dozens of exotic beasts kill each other for a period of time. Not only will we reduce the number of competitors, but we will also try our best to consume their demonic energy and strength. That's what I thought. Nodding, Thaling indicated that he thought so too. The second step requires you to use your powerful spiritual sense to collect the blood that flowed out from the wounds of the large Power King Kong apes, while trying your best not to alarm those exotic beasts. Then, help me refine the purest blood essence. Hearing Yu Howren's second plan, Thaling thought for a moment, then added, Yu Howren, if the large Power King Kong ape chooses to make a move in the end, or if it has a strong defense that allows it to not be injured and bleed, then what should we do? Give up the fight for the immortal lotus. Without any hesitation, Yu Howren said decisively, The large Power King Kong ape's blood essence is the foundation for me to be able to use one shot towards the sky, and is also the only way to intimidate those beasts of the 6th step and above. Chapter 374. In the Primeval Forest. Yu Howren, if I am willing to overdraft a portion of my soul's potential, I can allow you to possess the strength of a peak 9th stage martial king for a short period of time. I wonder if you are willing to continue taking the risk to fight for the celestial lotus. Without the large Power King Kong ape's blood essence, he took the initiative to withdraw from the fight for the celestial lotus. Yu Howren's attitude made Thaling extremely unwilling. The 2 heaven-defying effects of the celestial lotus were actually of no use to Thaling. However, to Yu Howren, it was a heaven-defying opportunity that could allow him to increase his cultivation and strength by several times, or even several dozen times. The immortal liquid condensed from the petals of the celestial lotus could increase Yu Howren's cultivation by a large realm. The petals of the celestial lotus could allow him to rely on his profound refining methods to refine the top defensive magical equipment in the profound sky continent. If combined with the natal implement that he was currently refining, which possessed a top-notch attack power, then when facing an opponent of the same level, Yu Howren would basically be in an invincible situation. After hearing Thaling's suggestion, Yu Howren also did not consider it, and directly shook his head and rejected it. Pagoda Spirit, let's not talk about the damage that overdrawing your divine soul will do to you. Many of the strange beasts gathered around the spring are old foxes that have lived for hundreds and thousands of years. They can easily guess your existence from the fact that I'm at the peak of the 9th grade martial emperor realm. Therefore, I would rather give up the fight for the celestial lotus than let you overdraft your soul, much less expose your existence. Sigh. Facing you Howren's unquestionable attitude, Thowling could only sigh, but he could not refute anything. After all, Yu Howren's starting point was completely for his own safety. After sighing, Thowling continued to use his consciousness to pay attention to the celestial lotus on the dark blue stone. He also separated a portion of his consciousness and stared at the large Power King Kong ape, hoping that it would attack first and suffer heavy injuries in an instant, so that he could collect enough blood essence in advance to allow Yu Howren to participate in the fight for the celestial lotus. The immortal lotus bloomed its petals very quickly. Just as Yu Howren refused Thowling's request to overdraw his soul, the immortal lotus on the dark blue stone began to bloom its 5th petal. 5 petals meant that the celestial liquid condensed from the celestial lotus petals could help a warrior in the martial king realm directly advance to the martial emperor realm. This also caused a commotion among the 6th-level exotic beasts around the stream. However, the lotus petals on the dark blue stones didn't stop blooming. The rank 5 exotic beasts directly unleashed their powerful auras, intimidating the rank 6 exotic beasts, not daring to act rashly. In the end, when the celestial lotus bloomed with 6 petals, its growth gradually slowed down. This made all the strange beasts around the spring stand up, fly up, or lay their front paws on the ground. All of them stared at the celestial lotus that bloomed with 6 petals. Roar! The moment the celestial lotus completely matured, a giant golden lion that had reached the peak of the rank 6 9th level and was more than 10 meters tall suddenly roared to the sky. Then, its body turned into a golden light and directly rushed toward the celestial lotus on the dark blue stone. Just as the golden lion was about to reach the celestial lotus on the dark blue stone, a fist as big as a mountain accurately hit the golden lion. Not only did it send the golden lion flying back the way it came, but it also left a trail of blood in the air. After sending the golden lion flying, the fist condensed from demonic power and soul quickly approached the celestial lotus with the help of the recoil from the punch. At the same time, the fist quickly opened and directly grabbed the celestial lotus on the dark blue stone. Ow! Just as the fist was about to grab the celestial lotus, a wolf's howl suddenly rang out above the stream. Accompanied by the wolf's howl, a giant white wolf with snow-white fur and a body the size of a small mountain instantly appeared above the celestial lotus. Seeing that the fist was about to grab the celestial lotus, the white wolf's fierce eyes instantly shot out a green light. The speed of the green light was very fast. It was so fast that even divine sense could not track its speed, let alone the naked eye. Therefore, just as the fist's open palm touched the celestial lotus, it was directly shot through by the green light. Then, the fist condensed from demonic power and the soul suddenly turned into countless spiritual energy and dissipated above the stream. By King, you're courting death. Not only did he lose the celestial lotus that was about to be in his hands, but the fist condensed from demonic power and soul was also scattered. It also caused the owner of the fist to suffer a slight injury, which caused the owner of the fist to be angry. Accompanied by an angry roar, a giant ape that was nearly 60 meters tall quickly appeared in front of the white wolf. Its eyes were emitting a fierce light as it looked at the giant white wolf. Ape King, who doesn't know that the celestial liquid condensed from the 6 celestial lotuses can allow us rank 5 beasts to successfully advance to rank 4 holy beasts. In order to get the celestial lotus, let alone you, Ape King, even if all of you rank 5 emperors come together, I, the white wolf, am not afraid at all. Facing the fierce gaze of the Power King Kong ape, the giant white wolf was not afraid at all and refuted and provoked. By King, although I know that you have always been arrogant, I did not expect you to be so arrogant to the extent of not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. Just as the white wolf arrogantly ignored the opponents of the same level below, a disdainful, mocking voice was heard. Accompanied by the mocking voice, a black bear that was not inferior to the Power King Kong ape in height, but its body was several times stronger than the Power King Kong ape. It appeared in the air behind the white wolf, forming a pincer attack with the Power King Kong ape. Turning his head and coldly looking at the black bear, Bai King said contemptuously, "Black Emperor, even with you, you are still no match for me." Then, a pair of eyes that were emitting a green light directly looked at the rank 5 beast below and continued to provoke them with a tone that was full of provocation. "Ape King and Black Emperor, these two pieces of trash are no match for me, Bai King. I don't know who is still willing to join forces with them." In the face of the white wolf's arrogant provocation, among the remaining 8 rank 5 beasts present, except for a small white fox with 6 tails on its back that did not move, the other 7 rank 5 beasts rose into the air one after another. "Bai King, since you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, then don't blame us for joining forces to kill you." A mountain cat with wings on its back, whose strength was not inferior to the Power King Kong ape and the black bear, stared at the white wolf and said fiercely, "That's right. Let's join forces to kill the white wolf, and then fight for the white lotus with our strength." A red deer that was 90% similar to the Sika deer, but its eyes were playful, also called out with a cry. Seeing the 9 rank 5 beasts begin to attack the white wolf, Thowling, who had been paying attention with his divine mind, involuntarily turned his attention to the small white fox with 6 tails. Back then, when Yuhauran had just joined the 100 Chi Gate and became a disciple of the Clear Cloud Peak, he went deep into the mountains to train for the first time. On the mountain peak where he found the ginseng, he accidentally encountered 2 ancient mythical beast bloodlines, Ba Tian Xiang and Sky-Devouring Snake. In order to be able to devour Ba Tian Xiang's bloodline to improve and upgrade its own bloodline, Sky-Devouring Snake eventually died together with Ba Tian Xiang. At that time, he planned to use the blood essence of the 2 beasts that contain the bloodline of the ancient mythical beasts to help Yuhauran and Wu Jingjun increase the purity of the blood in their bloodlines. However, he accidentally discovered that the reason why the 2 beasts with the bloodline of the ancient mythical beasts could encounter each other and die together was completely because of the manipulation of the mastermind behind the scenes. When he left the mountain peak, Thowling secretly felt a trace of the mastermind's aura. Chapter 375. In the Primeval Forest. Thinking about how fox-type beasts were sinister and cunning, they were full of tricks, and the white fox in front of him, through a ground ginseng, had easily killed 2 strange beasts that possessed the bloodline of the primordial divine beasts. His spiritual sense, which was originally separated by a third, immediately separated by 2/3, and stared fixedly at the white fox. This was because Thowling had a feeling that the white fox was very likely to be the same as Yuhauran, planning to wait until all the strange beasts were killed before fighting for the celestial lotus. Above the stream, although the white wolf was very strong, and its rank had even reached the peak of the 8th rank of the 5th step, the 9 strange beasts that surrounded it were not weak either. Especially the large Power King Kong ape, black bear, and the lynx, their ranks had even reached the peak of the 7th rank of the 5th step. Therefore, after a dozen or so moves, not only was the white wolf at a disadvantage, its white fur was dyed red by the blood flowing out of the wounds on its body. Although it was at an absolute disadvantage, the white wolf did not panic in the slightest. Instead, it looked at the 9 strange beasts with an inexplicable smile. However, when the 9 strange beasts that participated in the attack saw that the powerful white wolf was heavily injured and its aura weakened, they were all extremely excited. They did not notice the smile in the white wolf's eyes at all. "White wolf, go to hell." The large Power King Kong ape waved its huge fist and fiercely smashed towards the white wolf's head. Facing the large Power King Kong ape's iron fist, the white wolf's face did not reveal any signs of fear, nor did it have any intention of dodging. Although the white wolf's suicidal actions caused the large Power King Kong ape to feel extremely puzzled, Seeing that victory was in sight, it could only temporarily suppress the doubts in its heart and attack the white wolf's head with all its might. Just as the large power King Kong ape's iron fist was about to land on the white wolf's head, 6 white rays of light flashed past like lightning. Following that, a white tail suddenly appeared at the fatal points of the large power King Kong ape, the lynx, and the other 4 stage 5 beasts. The fatal point was suddenly struck, causing the large power King Kong ape's iron fist to instantly lose the support of its demonic energy and divine soul. Of course, it was impossible for a fist without any power to hurt the white wolf. So the large power King Kong ape could only withdraw its powerless fist and ask the white fox below with a face full of grief and indignation. "Sir Fox Emperor, what are you doing?" "It's nothing." Facing the question of the large power King Kong ape, the white fox casually replied, "The mountain range we live in has limited resources, and there are too many rulers. Therefore, I can only clear a part of it in advance to ensure the normal operation of the mountain range." "I see." After hearing the white fox's reply, the large power King Kong ape's face revealed an expression of sudden realization and said, 20 years ago, Brother Misha, who inherited the bloodline of the ancient monkey emperor, must have been killed by you, White Fox." "That's right. Not only is Misha's inherited bloodline powerful, but his own talent and potential are also too heaven-defying. If I hadn't acted in advance, I'm afraid he would have already broken through to rank 4 and become the first holy beast in the mountain range. If Misha becomes a sacred beast, how can I, the White Fox, continue to dominate the mountain range? How can you all listen to my orders?" Facing the large power King Kong ape's guess, the White Fox nodded. Not only did it admit that it had gotten rid of Misha, it also explained the reason why it had gotten rid of Misha. "White Fox, in the past few hundred years, did you secretly get rid of all the exotic beasts with outstanding talent in the mountain range?" The black bear, who had not been hit by the fox's tail, asked in a low voice. "Black bear, do you want to ask about the whereabouts of that female bear, your partner?" Hearing the black bear's question, the petite white fox immediately rose into the air and flew all the way to the back of the white wolf. Then, she asked with a smile. Nodding, the black bear looked nervously at the white fox. "To be honest, not only is your partner's talent and potential more outstanding than yours, his body also contains the bloodline of the ancient divine beast, the Bear of the Earth. The Bear of the Earth is a divine beast known for its strength. Although its bloodline is very precious, it is not suitable for me, the White Fox. Therefore, I sold it at a very high price to an elder at the peak of the 9th level of the Martial King realm from the top sect, the Xiandao school. White Fox, you deserve to die." Hearing that the White Fox had sold his partner to a human expert, the angry black bear immediately went crazy. Along with the crazy state, the black bear, who was originally at the peak of the 7th level of the 5th step, directly reached the peak of the 9th level of the 5th step. Moreover, this aura still showed no signs of stopping. Feeling the increasing aura from the black bear, the smile on the White Fox's face gradually disappeared. Then, he said with a face full of anticipation, "Back then, when I made a deal with the elder of the Xiandao school, that elder said that he wanted your partner to become the guardian beast of the mountain. I don't know if it's still alive." Hearing that his partner might still be alive, the black bear instantly woke up from its madness. Then, it turned around and flew away from the stream, left the primeval forest, and flew towards the outskirts of the mountain range. The arm that had just been raised finally drooped down powerlessly. The large power King Kong ape shook its head with a bitter smile. The black bear's partner was something that happened 30 years ago. At that time, her strength was already at the early stage of the 8th rank of the 5th step. Facing such a powerful exotic beast, the human expert's method of dealing with it was basically to directly kill it, then extract its blood essence, eat its flesh, and refine its skin. It was simply impossible to leave her alive, much less make her a guardian beast of the mountain. Although he wanted to tell the black bear all of this, when he thought about his fatal weakness and how his life had already come to an end after being hit by the white fox's tail that contained a special power, he gave up on this kindness. Let's go. Seeing that the strongest large power King Kong ape and the lynx had been killed, the black bear had already left. The two beasts, who were only at the fourth and fifth stage of the fifth step, knew that they were no match for the white fox and the white wolf, so they immediately used their fastest speed to escape from the primeval forest. Unfortunately, the white tail that had pierced into the bodies of the large power King Kong ape and the other 6 beasts was instantly retracted, and as if it had teleported, it directly pierced into the 2 beasts that were escaping. Looking at the large power King Kong ape that had crashed into the stream, Thowling forcefully suppressed the joy in his heart. Then, he used his mind to secretly extract the large power King Kong ape's blood essence and refined it as quickly as possible, so that Yuhauran could fully unleash the power of the blood essence. Brother Bai, the opponents who can compete with us for the Celestial Lotus are either dead or gone. The Celestial Lotus is already ours. Looking at the 6 exotic beasts that have fallen into the stream and the ground, the white wolf's gaze stopped on the Celestial Lotus and said with a relaxed expression, "No." Shaking its head, the white fox looked around with a serious expression and said with a trace of vigilance in its eyes, "There's an even stronger opponent in the dark, but I've never been able to find his exact location." Originally, according to the plan that the white fox and the white wolf had made beforehand, they would first use the white wolf's powerful defensive ability to exhaust the large power King Kong ape, the lynx, and the black bear's demonic energy, while lowering their vigilance. Then, the white fox would use its best attacking method to ambush the strongest beasts, hoping to kill all the other beasts in the depths of the mountain range other than the 2 of them. But just before the sneak attack, the white fox suddenly felt that it was being watched. Moreover, the aura of the spiritual sense that was monitoring it gave it a familiar feeling. Therefore, when it launched its sneak attack, the white fox let go of the strongest black bear and used its weakness to trick it into leaving the scene. Chapter 376. In the primeval forest above the stream. In order to deal with the opponent who was secretly monitoring it, the cautious white fox had to reserve enough power to deal with and protect itself. This was the reason why it did not immediately go to pluck the divine lotus after killing all the opponents. It was worried that it would be ambushed by the hidden opponent when it went to pluck the divine lotus. Hearing that there was an even stronger opponent in the dark, the white wolf was nervous. It immediately used its powerful divine sense to carefully search every place within a 10-mile radius of the stream. It did not even let go of a spot 10 meters underground. However, the final result of the search was nothing. Brother Bai, with your strength at the peak of rank 5, rank 9, and your divine sense is close to the early rank 4, unless it's a holy beast of rank 4 or above, or a martial saint expert among human cultivators, it's impossible to avoid your divine sense. Using a carpet search, it did not find the hidden murderer. With its super-sensitive sense of smell, it did not find any trace of the murderer's aura around the stream. This made the white wolf suspect that the white fox's senses were wrong. If the hidden opponent is a 4th-stage sacred beast or a human martial saint, with their powerful strength, they can definitely openly snatch it. There's no need to hide it all. That's true. After hearing the white wolf's analysis, the white fox felt that it made sense. However, ever since it became a 10th-stage exotic beast, its super-sensitive senses had never been wrong. Even if the white wolf's speculation made sense, it was still unwilling to take the risk. Therefore, with a plan in mind, it jumped off the white wolf's back and pretended to fly toward the white lotus while saying to the white wolf, "Maybe my senses were wrong. Let me go and pluck the divine lotus now. Brother White, although your senses may be wrong, to avoid any accidents, why don't you pay attention to the surroundings at all times and let me pluck the divine lotus?" Seeing that the white fox was going to pluck the divine lotus personally, the white wolf's face immediately became anxious. According to their original agreement, after killing all the 5th-stage exotic beasts in the depths of the mountain range, If there were more than 6 blooming divine lotus petals, the divine liquid condensed from the petals would go to the white fox, and the divine lotus petals would go to the white wolf. If there were less than 6 blooming immortal lotus petals, the immortal liquid condensed from the petals would go to the white wolf, and the immortal lotus petals would go to the white fox. Although they had already reached an agreement, considering the white fox's sinister and cunning character, the white wolf was worried that if the immortal lotus petals fell into the white fox's hands, it would tear up the agreement on the spot and kill him. With the white fox's strength that was close to that of a holy beast and his current state of being heavily injured, he was no match for the white fox at all. If he were to pick them himself, then he would have the initiative. At that time, not only would he be able to successfully complete the initial agreement, but he would also be able to use the petals of the immortal lotus to threaten the white fox and ensure his safety. All right, after pretending to think about it for a while, the white fox finally gritted its teeth and agreed. It flew to a higher altitude and spread out its divine sense with all its might, constantly paying attention to the situation around the immortal lotus. Howren, this is a drop of large power King Kong ape's blood essence that I just refined. Seeing that the white wolf was planning to pick the celestial lotus, Thowling did not have time to continue refining the large power King Kong ape's blood essence. He directly gave the drop of blood essence that he had barely refined to Howren and urged him to quickly fight for the celestial lotus. Brother Heishu, you should hide to the side for now. He opened his mouth and swallowed the large power King Kong ape's blood essence, then jumped down from the tree. Howren patted the black mouse on his shoulder, indicating that it should leave for the time being. Although he did not know why Howren, who was not as strong as him, would suddenly interfere in the fight for the celestial lotus, the timid black mouse did not break away from its mouse nature. With a light leap, it directly hid in the leaves where Howren was hiding. Seeing that the black mouse was unwilling to take the risk with him, Howren only chuckled and did not care about its selfishness and courage. After that, as he walked towards the stream, he activated the large power King Kong ape's blood essence. Seeing the white fox fly even higher into the sky, the white wolf secretly heaved a sigh of relief. After that, he slowly approached the celestial lotus while being on guard against the white fox's sneak attack. Just as the white wolf was about to approach the celestial lotus and reach out its claws to pluck the celestial lotus, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from the west of the stream. The white wolf, who was alarmed by the heavy footsteps, quickly stopped plucking the celestial lotus and stared at the west of the stream with a vigilant expression. The white fox, who was also alarmed by the heavy footsteps, vigilantly paid attention to the west of the stream. At the same time, its consciousness also quickly chased after it. But when it saw that the opponent that was rushing towards it was actually the large power King Kong ape, the white fox's face immediately revealed a shocked expression. Seeing the large power King Kong ape that had also appeared by the side of the stream, the white wolf couldn't help but scream in fear. This was because the large power King Kong ape that had appeared by the side of the stream was not only the same grade, appearance, and demeanor as the large power King Kong ape that they had just ambushed and killed, but even the aura emitted from its body was exactly the same. Seeing the large power King Kong ape that had appeared by the side of the stream, and then lowering its head to look at the large power King Kong ape that had sunk to the bottom of the stream, the white wolf temporarily did not care about plucking the celestial lotus, and directly flew to the side of the white fox. Brother Bai, didn't the large power King Kong ape get killed by us just now? What's going on? After closing its eyes and thinking for a while, the white fox's originally shocked expression gradually relaxed. Soon after, a strange smile hung on the sharp fox's face as it asked, I presume that you are the human genius in the 100 Chi Gate who is able to use the blood essence of a strange beast to transform into a strange beast. That's right. Raising his head to look at the white fox and white wolf in the air, Howren admitted as he took out his purple rod. Genius among humans. Although your talent and potential are outstanding, and your method of transforming into a strange beast is also very mysterious. But due to the influence of your physical body's grade and cultivation, I'm afraid that you're currently unable to unleash the strength of a large power King Kong ape at the peak of the 7th rank of the 5th step. After receiving Yu Haoran's personal acknowledgement, the strange smile on the white fox's face became even wider. Is that so? You could try. Waving the purple rod in his hand, Yu Haoran coldly demonstrated. Hee. Seeing Yu Haoran's unyielding demonstration, the white fox chuckled a few times, and then said proudly, "As a direct descendant of the Green Hill Fox clan, I, the white fox, am best at using the power of spiritual sense. Although your 100 Chi gate has a martial saint realm expert, I can still use my spiritual sense to observe everything that happens in your 100 Chi gate. A while ago, you used the blood essence of the Vajra monkey that failed to advance to the 4th stage to deal with the peak master of the law enforcement peak, who had reached the peak of the 4th stage of the martial king realm. At that time, you could only use 6% of the energy in the Vajra monkey's blood essence. As long as you used a little more, your body would not be able to withstand the violent energy in the blood essence and would explode and die. Therefore, I can be 100% sure that you can at most use the energy of the 8th level of the large power King Kong ape's blood essence. The energy of the 8th level of the large power King Kong ape's blood essence can at most allow you to unleash the strength of the peak of the 5th step. Tell me the truth." At this point, the white fox looked at Yu Haoran complacently and said with a tone full of contempt, Chapter 377. In the primeval forest by the stream. Thaling, hearing that his every move in the sect had been monitored by the white fox's divine sense, Yu Haoran felt flustered and couldn't help but complain about Thaling. After all, Thaling, who had partially recovered from his injuries, could use the divine sense power of a martial honorable. With a divine sense power that was 2 realms higher than the other party, he actually couldn't detect the other party spying. This showed that Thaling had been too careless and that the white fox's methods were very powerful. Yu Haoran, don't listen to that old fox's nonsense. I've always used my divine sense to seal the Hidden Moon Pavilion, not to mention a mere rank 5 exotic beast divine sense. Even a rank 3 exotic beast divine sense wouldn't be able to spy on the flowers and grass in the Hidden Moon Pavilion, let alone your every move. Hearing the strong dissatisfaction in Yu Haoran's complaining tone, Thaling, who felt wronged, hurriedly explained. That old fox knew the entire process of you transforming into the Vajra monkey because I avoided using my divine sense to avoid the detection of your master's power of law. And your master was worried about your safety, so he didn't pay attention to those spying divine senses. That's why that old fox succeeded in spying on you. Seeing Yu Haoran's gloomy face gradually relax, Thaling hurriedly promised, Yu Haoran, don't worry. As my injuries recover faster and faster, I'll integrate my divine sense into the mountain guard formation. At that time, without my permission, any divine sense that doesn't belong to the 100 Chi gate will be rejected outside the gate. While promising Yu Haoran, Thaling's eyes were filled with anger as he looked at the white fox in the air. If it wasn't for Yu Haoran forbidding him from exposing himself, he would rather overdraw a part of his divine sense to kill the white fox that dared to slander him. Thaling, I'm sorry. Yu Haoran knew that he had panicked and lost his composure. In the end, he blamed Thaling wrongly. Yu Haoran quickly apologized to him. Then, he raised his head and looked at the white fox and white wolf in midair. A ferocious look appeared on his monkey face. Then he stomped on the ground with his feet and soared into the sky. Be it the 6-tailed white fox or the huge white wolf, they were both powerful Tier 5 advanced exotic beasts. Ordinary probing moves would not only be useless, but might even put him in danger. Therefore, at the same time that his body rushed into the air, Yu Haoran directly used all of the strength of the large power King Kong ape's blood essence, and then used his strongest staff technique, Sky Smashing Staff. Seeing Yu Haoran soar into the sky, both the 6-tailed white fox and the heavily injured white wolf revealed disdainful sneers. In their minds, the difference in strength between exotic beasts was far greater than the difference in strength between human cultivators. Not to mention a difference of 3 or 4 small grades. Even if it was a difference of 1 small grade, the difference in strength was still quite huge. However, when the purple staff in Yuhauran's hand emitted a terrifying power close to the martial saint realm, which was the terrifying power of a Tier 3 exotic beast, the faces of the white fox and white wolf instantly revealed expressions of fear. This was because they had never thought that not only was Yuhauran able to unleash the full strength of the large Power King Kong ape at the peak of the 7th rank of the 5th step, he was also able to unleash a terrifying strength that surpassed his own by 2 realms. Facing the rapidly approaching purple staff technique, the white fox knew that with its own strength, it was impossible to block the power of the staff technique. However, it did not want to give up the celestial lotus petal that was about to be obtained, so it directly used its foxtail to wrap around the stunned white wolf, and then used all its strength to throw the white wolf towards the incoming purple staff. "White fox, what are you doing?" The white wolf, who was suddenly entangled by the white fox's foxtail and was unable to break free with all its might, asked with a terrified expression. "Nothing. I just need you to temporarily block the staff technique used by the human martial warriors so that I can snatch the celestial lotus." The white fox sneered as it explained, while throwing the white wolf towards the incoming staff. It turned around and ran towards the celestial lotus petal on the dark blue stone. "Go to hell." Seeing that the white fox was actually planning to use the white wolf to block the attack of the sky-facing staff technique, and then take the opportunity to steal the celestial lotus petal, Yuhauran roared and increased the speed of the staff technique's attack. Previous chapter, next chapter, boom. The white wolf, who had just come into contact with the purple staff, let out a blood-curdling scream as it was directly smashed into powder by the terrifying power of the staff technique. Following that, the staff technique that did not decrease in power quickly smashed towards the white fox. Turning its head to look at the purple staff technique that was chasing after it, the white fox's expression could not help but change. It did not expect that the white wolf, whose strength had reached the peak of the 8th rank of the 5th step and who was good at defense, would not even be able to hold on for a second. At this moment, if it continued to fight for the celestial lotus petal, it would definitely be hit by the staff technique. With its physique that was not good at defense, the result would probably be even worse than the white wolf. However, if it chose to dodge now, with the strength that the human martial warriors had just displayed, it would probably completely lose the chance to fight for the celestial lotus petal. The white fox's pitch-black eyes turned as it appeared beside the celestial lotus in a flash. Then, it roared at the top of its lungs. "Human martial warriors, if you don't stop attacking, even though I, the white fox, might die under your staff technique, the celestial lotus petal will probably be destroyed under your staff technique." Unfortunately, facing the threat of the white fox, Yuhauran did not show any signs of stopping his attacks. It was as if he did not care if the terrifying staff technique he used would destroy the precious celestial lotus. Looking at Yuhauran, who had transformed into a large Power King Kong ape, with a fierce gaze in his eyes, and feeling the power of the purple staff that was close to the martial saint realm, the white fox who cherished its life finally chose to dodge. After all, no matter how precious the celestial lotus was, it was not as important as its life. If it lost its life, then what was the use of obtaining the celestial lotus petal? Unfortunately, if the white fox did not use the celestial lotus to threaten Yuhauran and directly dodge with the strength and speed of the peak of the 5th rank, it would be able to avoid the attack range of the sky-facing staff technique. But now, seeing that it was unable to avoid the attack range of the staff technique with its speed, the white fox could only clench its teeth and roar. A white tail instantly became larger and thicker, and then heavily welcomed the purple staff. As a direct descendant of the Green Hill Fox clan, nearly 80% of the white fox's strength was in its 6 tails. Each tail was able to unleash the strength of the peak of the 5th rank, 7th rank. This was also the main reason why it was able to rely on sneak attacks and directly use its white tail to kill 5 rank 5 exotic beasts. The white fox believed that with the attack of its tail, it should be able to offset a bit of the speed of the purple staff attack, ensuring that it could escape from the attack range of the staff technique. Boom! However, when the white tail came into contact with the purple staff, the white fox knew that its judgment had been wrong. Not only was the power of the purple staff close to the martial saint realm, there's also a trace of destructive power in the attack formed by the staff technique. It was precisely because of this trace of destructive power that the white fox's tail only lasted for less than 1/10 of a second. 1/10 of a second was not enough for it to escape the attack range of the staff technique. Helpless, the white fox could only use its second and third white tails. In the end, it sacrificed 3 tails to escape the attack range of the purple staff. Seeing that the white fox had completely escaped the attack range of the sky-facing staff technique, Yuhauran immediately controlled the staff in his hand and forcefully changed the direction of the staff technique's attack. In the end, the power of the staff technique's attack landed in a forest 30 meters away from the stream. Chapter 378. In the Primeval Forest. Although the power of the Sky Staff technique was very strong, close to the realm of Martial Saint, the consumption of the large Power King Kong Ape's blood essence was also very terrifying. Right now, Yuhauran could only barely maintain the transformation of the large Power King Kong Ape. He could not unleash the power of the peak of the 7th rank of the 5th step, nor could he use the Sky Staff technique. Therefore, after receiving the blood essence from Thaling, Yuhauran directly swallowed it, and then activated the large Power King Kong Ape's blood essence. He planned to continue using the Sky Staff technique to kill the white fox completely. The white fox, who had sacrificed 3 white tails to escape the range of the purple rod's attack, originally wanted to fiercely threaten Yuhauran, let him know the consequences of offending him, let him know the power of the Green Hill Fox clan behind him, and then use this opportunity to negotiate with Yuhauran about the distribution of the celestial lotus petals and the immortal liquid. However, when it saw Yuhauran consume another drop of the large Power King Kong Ape's blood essence and directly activate it was immediately shocked. Helpless, it could only temporarily give up on the fight for the celestial lotus petals, and then desperately escape from the stream and the primeval forest. Human martial warriors, do you know what kind of existence you have offended? If you still want to live and still want to protect the sect behind you, it's best not to rashly use the celestial lotus petals and the immortal liquid. Otherwise, you and the sect behind you will completely disappear into thin air. When the white fox escaped from the stream, it unwillingly left behind some threatening words. White fox, aren't you from the Green Hill Magic Fox clan of the Great Azure Mountain? Facing the power of the white fox, Yuhauran directly used the large Power King Kong Ape's roar and loudly counterattacked. To tell you the truth, even if you don't come to find me for revenge, I will definitely kill my way to the Great Azure Mountain in the future and exterminate your Green Hill Magic Fox clan. The white fox, who was desperately trying to leave the primeval forest, couldn't help but feel its heart tremble when it heard Yuhauran's counterattack that was filled with killing intent. Because through Yuhauran's counterattack just now, it meant that not only did he know its origins, he also knew a lot about the Green Hill Magic Fox clan. Yuhauran, you know about the Green Hill Magic Fox clan too? Thaling asked in surprise when he heard Yuhauran mention the Green Hill Magic Fox clan. A bunch of animals who think they are the descendants of the Empress of Heaven and want to restore the glory of the Imperial Dynasty. Yuhauran replied disdainfully. Then his gaze turned to the dark blue. No, it should be the light yellow, immortal lotus petals on the stone. Seeing that Yuhauran didn't want to talk too much about the Green Hill Magic Fox clan, Thaling opened his mouth, but ultimately chose to sigh helplessly. Then, like Yuhauran, he looked at the lotus petals. Yuhauran, 6 celestial lotus petals have bloomed. This means that the celestial liquid condensed from the petals is able to help a martial emperor directly break through to the martial saint realm. Seeing that the immortal elixir had completely condensed within the petals of the immortal lotus, Thowling reminded him while explaining, "But I don't agree with you directly using the immortal elixir to break through to the next realm. Although the immortal elixir can help you break through to the next realm without any side effects, you will lose the comprehension of the process of advancing from the martial emperor realm to the martial saint realm. And this kind of comprehension of breaking through to the next realm is the most important cultivation in the process of advancing one's cultivation." Yu Haoran, who had dispersed the large Power King Kong ape transformation and returned to his original appearance, took out a pill bottle, intending to collect the immortal elixir condensed from the immortal lotus petals, while replying to Thowling's suggestion. "Thowling, even if you didn't remind me just now, I wouldn't use the immortal elixir to directly raise my cultivation, because I have other uses for the immortal elixir condensed from the immortal lotus petals." Yu Haoran, you can't be thinking of giving it away, right? Hearing Yu Haoran say that the immortal elixir had other uses, Thowling asked unwillingly, thinking of how generous he was to his family and friends. How is that possible? Seeing that Thowling had misunderstood him, Yu Haoran hurriedly explained, "Thowling, with your experience and knowledge, you should know that the immortal elixir is not only able to directly assist in breaking through to the next realm of cultivation, but also the pure immortal qi that the immortal elixir emits at all times. Not only can it automatically increase one's cultivation and strength, it can also subtly improve one's physique, increase one's talent and potential. If you can help me refine a magic tool that can conceal the aura of the immortal elixir, maximize the immortal qi of the immortal elixir, and also work close to my body, this is the most correct way to use the immortal elixir. Moreover, how can I give such a heaven-defying treasure to others for free?" After hearing Yu Haoran's explanation, Thowling secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he carefully thought about the effects of the immortal elixir, and his eyes immediately lit up as he hurriedly agreed. "Don't worry, I'll help you refine a jade pendant that can maximize the effects of the immortal elixir and also have a supreme level defense." "Thank you." Yu Haoran thanked Thowling, then put away the pill bottle containing the immortal elixir. In fact, the immortal elixir had an even more heaven-defying effect other than the effects he had just described. That was to use half of the immortal elixir and 98 different spiritual herbs of different grades to refine a heaven-defying, fate-changing pill. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call it an immortal elixir. However, that pill's grade had already reached the 9th grade of the 2nd grade. With his current level of alchemy, he was temporarily unable to refine this pill. However, now that he had obtained the most precious main ingredient, the immortal elixir, he knew the specific whereabouts of most of the 98 spiritual herbs that would assist in refining the pill. Therefore, as long as he continued to improve his alchemy skills while breaking through his cultivation, he was confident that he would definitely be able to refine that ancient pill in the future. After putting away the pill bottle containing the immortal elixir, Yu Haoran looked at the immortal lotus petals. However, Yu Haoran didn't reach out to pluck the immortal lotus petals. Instead, he gestured for Thowling to do it. This was because the immortal lotus petals were used for defense. With Thowling's ability as a master artificer, the immortal lotus petals would only be able to display their greatest effect in his hands. Yu Haoran, using the immortal lotus petals to refine a defensive artifact doesn't require any additional supplementary materials, but the refining process will take a very long time. After putting away the immortal lotus petals, Thowling carefully examined the structure of the immortal lotus petals with his divine sense. Based on the current state of my spirit's recovery and the refining methods I can use, it'll take at least several years to refine the immortal lotus petals into a top-notch defensive artifact. In other words, it's possible that you won't be able to use the immortal lotus petals defense until your cultivation breaks through to the martial king realm. It's fine. Yu Haoran waved his hand. He didn't care about when the immortal lotus petals would be refined. This was because his attention was now completely focused on the light yellow stone. He squatted down and pressed his left hand on the stone. He carefully felt the structure of the light yellow stone, as well as the energy it contained. When he felt the same meridian structure as a human ancient martial art practitioner, as well as the abundant life force in the stone, Yuhaoran couldn't suppress the ecstasy in his heart. Sensing Yuhaoran's uncontrollable joy, Thowling also asked in high spirits, "Yuhaoran, what kind of treasure is this stone under your feet? It can actually make you so excited." "Thowling, it's not that I don't want to tell you the origin of this light yellow stone. It's just that this stone is related to a secret that can make people go crazy. If you know in advance, it'll be detrimental to your recovery." When he thought about how Thowling didn't tell him the secret of the demon sealing secret realm in the Blue Moon secret realm, he even stopped Palace for revealing all information about the demon sealing secret realm. Yuhaoran felt extremely displeased. Chapter 379. In the Primeval Forest. Hearing that Yuhaoran was using the same method to take revenge on him again, Thowling felt extremely unhappy and didn't know how to refute him. After all, he couldn't force Yuhaoran to tell him the origin of the light yellow stone. In the end, he could only retort stubbornly, "Fisk, it's just a broken stone. I don't think it's any precious treasure. Do you really think I want to know its origin?" Thowling's stubborn retort made Yuhaoran, who was in a good mood, unwilling to give up the opportunity to continue teasing and taking revenge on him. He immediately pretended to be regretful and said, "Sai, I originally wanted to reveal a part of the origin of the light yellow stone, but since you Thowling don't want to know, then forget it. Yuhaoran, I'll remember today's grudge." Although Yuhaoran's pretense of pity was very sincere, Thowling, who was familiar with and understood his character, knew that he was playing hard to get. If he followed Yuhaoran's words and asked about the origin of the light yellow stone, Yuhaoran would definitely take the opportunity to humiliate him. Yuhaoran would take revenge on him for stopping the Scarlet Loathe from revealing the secret of the demon sealing realm in the Blue Moon secret realm some time ago. Therefore, Thowling could only grit his teeth and bear grudge. Facing Thowling's hatred, Yuhaoran didn't take it to heart at all. Then, with a light leap, he left the stone and landed by the stream. After that, he controlled the light yellow stone with his mind and stored it in his storage ring. After the light yellow stone was stored in his storage ring, Yuhaoran looked at the corpses of the large Power King Kong ape and the red deer that had fallen into the stream without any objections. "Sigh, what a pity," looking at the 2 corpses of the exotic beasts in the stream, and then looking at the other 4 corpses of the exotic beasts by the side of the stream, Yuhaoran shook his head with a face full of pity, and his tone was filled with helplessness. Whether it's the red deer or the lynx, they can all be said to be special beasts with outstanding talent. If I can obtain their blood essence, I'll have a few more ways to deal with my predicament in the future. Enough. Seeing Yuhaoran pretending to be pitiful, Thowling said speechlessly, "Yuhaoran, Thowling, am not the kind of artifact spirit who doesn't know what's important. I won't refuse to help you because of your secret revenge and ridicule of the light yellow stone. Apart from the black bear and white fox that escaped, as well as the white wolf that was smashed into minced meat by the staff technique, I'll help you collect and refine the blood essences of the remaining 7 Class 5 exotic beasts." Thowling, thank you. Although he knew that Thowling wouldn't be angry at him for deliberately hiding the origin of the light yellow stone, it wasn't impossible for him to take the opportunity to teach him a lesson. But in the end, Thowling still cared about him sincerely. Therefore, Yuhaoran decided to reveal some information about the light yellow stone. "Thowling, to tell you the truth, it's not that I don't want to tell you about the origin of the light yellow stone, but I'm not 100% sure whether this light yellow stone is the legendary treasure or not. So, when my cultivation reaches the martial ancestor realm and I condense my own spirit, I'll be able to use the spirit separation technique to verify its authenticity. Then, you'll truly understand the origin of this stone. You'll know when you reach the martial ancestor realm." Thowling asked excitedly. That's right. Nodding his head, Howren walked towards the big tree where the black mouse was hiding while assuring Thowling. Okay, then I'll wait. After receiving Howren's assurance, Thowling's resentment finally calmed down a lot. Then, he began to use his divine thought to help Howren collect the blood essence of the dead exotic beasts. Arriving at the big tree where he was hiding, Howren waited for a while. He didn't see the black mouse come out, and he knew that something was wrong. With the black mouse's strength that was not inferior to his, and its super-sensitive vigilance, it should have discovered him when he approached this area. Since it hadn't appeared until now, it must have either left or something had happened. However, from the fact that there were no traces of killing at the scene, it was more likely that it had left alone. But for no reason at all, why did it leave without saying a word? Thinking that he didn't spend much time fighting for the divine lotus petals, even if the black mouse had left alone, it probably wouldn't be able to walk out of the primeval forest, so Howren directly asked Thowling for help. Thowling, use all your divine thought to help me find the black mouse's tracks. Okay, given the size of the primeval forest, there was no need for Thowling to use all his divine thought. Thus, he continued to use half of his divine thought to collect the blood essence of exotic beasts, and the other half to cover the entire forest. However, when his divine thought reached the entrance of the primeval forest, where Howren had jumped off the cliff, he was stunned by the scene before him. The black rat, which was only about half a meter tall, was staring arrogantly at a black bear that was almost 60 meters tall and looked like a mountain in front of it. What about the black bear? It was sitting on the ground, trembling all over as it stared at the black mouse. Although he couldn't see the black mouse's true grade with his divine thought, Thowling deduced that it was between the 7th or 9th rank of the 8th rank based on its battle with Howren. What about the black bear? Not only did it have a tough defense comparable to a peak Emperor rank magic weapon, but it was also at the peak of the 8th rank of the 5th rank. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the difference in strength between the two was like heaven and earth. But what was the result of their confrontation? The pagoda genie couldn't be bothered to continue collecting the blood essence of the exotic beasts. It immediately told Howren what it had seen with its divine telekinesis. Then, it urged him to hurry to the entrance of the primordial forest and see what was going on. After hearing Thowling's explanation, Howren also wanted to know what was going on. Thus, he used his peak cultivation speed to rush to the entrance of the primeval forest. Squeak, squeak. Seeing that the black bear wanted to stand up from the ground, the black mouse glared at it with its small eyes and squeaked a few times in a threatening manner. The strong black bear couldn't help but shudder, and then obediently sat down again. Howren, who had rushed over, happened to witness the whole thing with his own eyes. Howren appeared next to the black mouse in a flash and pointed at the black bear. Brother Black Mouse, what's going on? Squeak, squeak. The black mouse glanced at the black bear with disdain, then jumped onto Howren's shoulder. It waved its little paws and squeaked as it explained to him. The black mouse's squeaks and gestures confused Howren more and more. He had no choice but to point at the black bear and order it sternly. Chapter 380. At the entrance to the primeval forest. Raising his head to look at the black rat, the black bear, who could speak human language, explained after getting the black rat's permission. Lord Black Rat, what you meant just now was... Following the black bear's detailed explanation, Howren's heart gradually surged with shock. At the same time, his eyes were filled with shock and complexity as he looked at the black rat. According to the black bear, at this moment, the black rat standing on his shoulder had an extraordinary origin. It had inherited the bloodline of a divine beast king from the ancient Black Sea of Death. Moreover, the black rat had successfully activated part of the inheritance in its bloodline and obtained several secret techniques from the bloodline inheritance. As for the divine beast king from the Black Sea of Death, according to Thowling, its true strength was not only not inferior to the ancient 9 great divine beast kings, but but its attainments in the law of death also made the 9 great divine beast kings extremely fearful, and they did not dare to provoke it easily. As a 5th rank peak 8th rank emperor beast, the reason why the black bear was so afraid of the black rat was because there was a secret technique among the bloodline inheritance secret techniques that the black rat mastered that restrained it completely. Not to mention that it was only at the peak of the 5th rank 8th rank. Even if it was at the peak of the 3rd rank 8th rank, there would only be one result when facing the black rat's secret technique, and that was that it would be completely restrained. And the reason why it was restrained was because of the bloodline inheritance in the black bear's body. Just like the bloodline inheritance in the black rat's body, it also came from the black sea of death. Unless the black bear's strength could break through to the 2nd rank, and then use the power of law in its body to completely cut off the restraint between the bloodlines, it would be able to escape the threat of the black rat. After listening to the black bear's detailed explanation, Howard sighed at the boundless world, and at the same time looked at the black bear's mountain-like body, and suddenly had an idea in his heart. He took out a few medicinal pills that could increase the grade of the physical body from his storage ring and threw them directly to the black rat. Then, Howard directly activated the blood essence of the large power King Kong ape in his body and used the transformation secret technique to transform into a large power King Kong ape. What's going on? Seeing the human in front of it suddenly turn into the large power King Kong ape that it was familiar with, even though it had fallen to the ground. The black bear could not help but retreat a few meters and asked with a face full of fear. After transforming into a large power King Kong ape, his height was about the same as the black bear, but because the black bear was sitting on the ground, Howard, who had the advantage of height, said condescendingly, "Black bear, this is a transformation secret technique that I've mastered. By using the blood essence of exotic beasts, not only can I transform into you, but I can also obtain your original grade and strength. This secret technique is too terrifying." Feeling that the large power King Kong ape in front of him was basically the same as the large power King Kong ape that it was familiar with, whether it was in terms of size, temperament, grade, or demeanor. Black bear, the reason why I consumed my blood essence and transformed into a large power King Kong ape was to tell you that the white wolf had already been killed by me, and the white fox's 3 tails had also been cut off by me. They escaped from this primitive forest like a stray dog. This is impossible. Hearing Howard say that he had killed the white wolf and heavily injured the white fox, the black bear immediately stood up and shook its head in disbelief. Human martial warriors, with your ability to transform into a large power King Kong ape, if you use a sneak attack, you might be able to kill the white wolf. However, if you want to heavily injure the white fox, that is simply impossible, because the white fox comes from the mysterious Green Hill Fox clan. Not only is its own strength extremely powerful, it also possesses several bloodline inheritance secret techniques. Even if it were to face a holy beast of the 4th step or a martial saint realm expert, it would still be able to easily escape. Fowling, can you use your spiritual will to restore the scene of killing the white wolf and defeating the white fox? Seeing that the black bear did not believe what he had just said, Howard was not surprised at all. After all, even if he transformed into a large power King Kong ape, his strength would only be at the peak of the 7th rank of the 5th step. The difference in strength between him and the white wolf and the white fox was too great, so it was normal for the black bear not to believe him. Sure, using the power of spiritual will to restore the scene of the battle just now, it could be said to be simple, but it could also be said to be complicated. Simple meant that as long as one could capture the remnant auras of both sides of the battle, one would be able to use a spiritual will secret technique to recreate the battle scene that had just happened. Complicated meant that after the battle ended, either the dead side would be destroyed and the traces would be erased, or both sides would directly leave the scene, thus losing the chance to capture the remnant aura. Fowling used his spiritual will to directly extract Howard's aura. as well as the aura of the white wolf's flesh that had been shattered by the one staff facing the sky technique in the air, as well as the aura of the white fox's broken tail. Following that, Yu Howard pretended to use a secret technique and pointed his finger at the black bear. Countless scenes of the battle instantly appeared in the black bear's mind. Black bear has seen the experts of the human race. Even if it was just a scene, the black bear could still feel the terrifying power contained in Yu Howard's one staff facing the sky technique. As a bear-type exotic beast that was famous for its strength, not only did the black bear admire Yu Howard's head-on attacks, it also respected him quite a bit. As such, the black bear bowed with its front paws on the ground, its attitude extremely respectful. Yu Howard gestured for Thaling to retract the scenes of the battle with his spiritual will, then waved his hand, indicating that there was no need to be so polite. Expert of the human race, Old Black's bow earlier was both out of respect for your strength, and also to thank you for avenging part of the blood feud for my companion. Oh, so you already know that the white fox was lying to you. Hearing the black bear mention its companion and mention the blood feud, Yu Howard only had to think for a moment to realize that the black bear had long guessed that its companion couldn't possibly become the guardian beast of Xiandao School, and had probably died at the hands of the Xiandao School's elders. Shaking its head, the black bear said self-deprecatingly, "Although Black Bear, am a little stupid, I'm not stupid. How could I not know what human experts do to high-tier exotic beasts? Black Bear, I see that not only are you not stupid, but you're also very smart. To be able to pretend to be crazy, take the opportunity to leave the battlefield, and avoid being besieged by the white fox and white wolf. If anyone said that the black bear was stupid, then the person who said it was an idiot. Black Bear, with my strength and methods, as well as brother Hei Shu's natural suppression of your bloodline, it would be as easy as flipping my hand to take your life." After the simple conversation just now, Yu Howard had basically understood and familiarized himself with the black bear's character, so he began to carry out his own plan. "But I transformed into a large Power King Kong ape and showed you how to kill the white wolf and injure the white fox. There's only one goal. Speak." Raising its head to look at Yu Howard, the black bear asked with a look as if it was already prepared. "Follow me back to the 100 Qi Gates, Qingyun Peak, and become my Qingyun Peak's guardian beast." Yu Howard stared into the black bear's eyes and said word by word. Although the 100 Qi Gates encampment was in this mountain range, and there was no lack of opportunities to capture precious exotic beasts, it was precisely because it was surrounded by exotic beasts that the upper echelons of the 100 Qi Gate didn't dare to capture exotic beasts and tame them to become the sex guardian beast. Therefore, in the 100 Qi Gate, the Beastmaster Peak, which was specially used to tame exotic beasts, was basically just a decoration. Not to mention high-tier exotic beasts, there wasn't even an ordinary 10th-tier first-grade exotic beast. Chapter 381. At the entrance of the primitive forest. If you want me to become your Qingyun Peak's guardian beast, I can do that, but you have to agree to 2 of my conditions. It glanced at the sesame-sized black rat standing on Yu Howard's shoulder. Then, it looked at Yu Howard, who was staring at it, and the killing intent that flashed through his eyes from time to time. Black Bear took a deep breath and agreed to Yu Howard's conditions, taking the opportunity to raise its own conditions. Speak. Seeing that Black Bear was willing to become Qingyun Peak's guardian beast, Yu Howard couldn't help but feel ecstatic. Even if his master couldn't wake up in a short period of time due to the 7 bugs, 7 flowers powder's poison. But with a rank 5 8th tier black bear guarding the peak, Qingyun Peak still wasn't a place where anyone could come and go as they pleased. As such, Yu Howard decided that as long as Black Bear's 2 conditions weren't too outrageous, he would try his best to satisfy it. Black Bear stared at Yu Howard and waved its 2 large paws threateningly. "The first condition is that other than you, I won't sign a pet contract with anyone from Qingyun Peak. Otherwise, I'd rather die." The higher the grade of an exotic beast, the stronger its desire for freedom. This was why very few people could sign a pet contract with a high-grade exotic beast. Don't worry. Hearing Black Bear's first condition, Howard secretly sighed in relief. Afterwards, he waved his hand and said in a very casual tone, "Although your strength is not bad, you don't have the qualifications to become my, Howard's, pet beast. And none of the disciples of Qingyun Peak have the ability to sign a pet contract with you." Although Howard's words were a little hurtful, not signing a pet contract that restricted its freedom was the bottom line for Black Bear to be the guardian beast of Qingyun Peak. So, after receiving Howard's confirmation, Black Bear couldn't help but sigh in relief. Afterwards, it raised its second condition: genius among humans. Although your current cultivation is not very high, to be able to grasp such a powerful secret transformation technique as a martial master and obtain the favor of Lord Shu, it is enough to say that your potential is outstanding. My second condition is that once you've broken through to the martial saint rank, you must kill the white fox and avenge me. It had been a few hundred years since the white fox came to this mountain range. Over the past few hundred years, Black Bear had witnessed the white fox grow from a two-tailed little fox to a six-tailed emperor stage overlord beast with his own eyes. When White Fox first arrived at the mountain range, Black Bear was already at the peak of the six-step ninth stage. Therefore, the Black Bear was very self-aware. It knew that its talent and potential were far inferior to the White Fox. If he wanted to rely on his own efforts, he might not even have the strength and courage to face the White Fox in the future, let alone take revenge. Therefore, it could only place its hopes of revenge on this human with talent and potential that appeared in front of it. Black Bear, even if you hadn't raised this condition, I would have killed my way to the Green Hills Charm Fox clan on Mount Daqing when I become stronger in the future. I would have slaughtered all of them. Hearing Black Bear's second condition, not only did Howard not feel any pressure, he even promised with a murderous attitude. "Thank you." After hearing Howard's murderous promise, Hexiong once again knelt down and thanked him respectfully. "Black Bear, it's not that I don't trust you, but none of you fifth-stage exotic beasts are kind." While Howard gladly accepted Black Bear's gratitude, his tone instantly became serious. "In the Qingyun clan, other than Master and I who have the ability to suppress you, no one else is a match for your palm strike. What if Master and I have to go out for some matters, and you go berserk and hurt my brothers and sisters? Wouldn't I regret it for the rest of my life? As such, I need you to swear on your soul that you won't hurt anyone in the Qingyun clan. I, Black Bear, swear on the rules of the heavens that if I hurt any of the Qingyun clan's disciples, my soul will fall into a demonic prison forever." Actually, even without Howard's reminder, Black Bear would have taken the initiative to swear on his soul. After all, without any restrictions in the form of contract, no one would be at ease keeping a fifth-stage, eighth-stage exotic beast by their side. Not bad. Howard nodded in satisfaction when he saw Black Bear taking the initiative to swear on the rules of the heavens. Afterwards, he cast his gaze towards the primordial forest. Howard, in the entire primordial forest, other than the immortal lotus, there aren't any precious spiritual herbs. Those ordinary spiritual herbs that are tens of thousands of years old, or even a dozen years old, aren't as effective as higher quality spiritual herbs. Seeing Howard looking towards the primordial forest, Thowling knew what he wanted to do and hurriedly reminded him. Also, the timing of this primordial forest appearance is too coincidental. I'm worried that if we continue to stay here, an unexpected accident might happen. So let's leave quickly. After hearing Thowling's reminder, Howard nodded in agreement. Afterwards, he dispersed his great strength golden ape transformation and returned to his original appearance. With a light leap, he directly jumped on a Black Bear's broad shoulder. "Black Bear, let's leave this place," Howard instructed, patting Black Bear's shoulder. Using its strong bear paw, Black Bear immediately turned into a streak of black light and quickly left the primordial forest. When they were about 10 li away from the 100 Chi gate, Howard lightly patted Black Bear's shoulder, indicating for it to stop temporarily. After that, Howard jumped down from Black Bear's broad shoulder. He raised his head and asked, "Black Bear, can you shrink your body?" With a height of nearly 60 meters and a body like a mountain, if Black Bear appeared at the 100 Chi Gate in its current appearance, not to mention following him into Qingyun Peak, Black Bear would probably be obstructed by the martial emperor experts of the 100 Chi Gate as soon as they arrived at the 100 Chi Gate. For the time being, Yu Haoran did not want to expose Black Bear's existence. He wanted to quietly bring it into Qingyun Peak. Body transformation is a necessary skill for all exotic beasts. While answering Yu Haoran's question, Black Bear shrunk its body. Soon, Black Bear, who was originally nearly 60 meters tall, became an ordinary black bear who was only 2 meters tall and did not have the aura of a high-ranked exotic beast. Not bad. Looking at Black Bear, who had completely turned into an ordinary exotic beast, Yu Haoran nodded in satisfaction. Then he quickly ran towards the 100 Chi Gate with Black Bear and the Black Rat on his shoulder. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.